This is going to be a fun webinar today. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with just a short presentation because these are a lot of things that we'll talk about during the webinar when we start doing resume reviews, and then we'll review resumes. If you haven't sent your resume yet, we'll try to review it today. Sometimes these can go fairly long when we review resumes, but I'll try to review everybody's resume that's on the call. And then Michael from my office should be putting his contact information in the chat, and then you can email him your resume, and then he'll change the identifying information so no one knows who you are. But this is a fun webinar, and I think it should be very valuable in terms of the information you guys get today, and girls, about things on your resume. Resumes are very important, and I've been looking at resumes every day for, I don't know, more than 2 decades. And with a resume, what you're doing is a lot of times people don't really understand the value of a resume and why it's important. And just to give you some, insight, when I first started doing resumes myself, when I was in law school, I would list, all my accomplishments and everything I'd done, like I was some sort of big deal and stuff. And literally even the smallest accomplishment. And if that's really not what people want to see, people, when they're reviewing you many times, and my resume, by the way, was over the top. It talked about just ridiculous stuff that had no place there. But anyway, so the point is that the only thing your resume needs to communicate is that you're really the most ready and the most capable of doing a job. And employers really want you to come in, they want you to fit in, and they want you to work a lot of hours, especially in the legal profession. Law firms, in-house companies, and so forth can hire lots of people for every job, but the person that they really want to hire is the person that will do the work and will not create problems within the employer. And they want soldiers when you're an associate, for one. And most employers want one form of soldier or another, but even partners are soldiers. But a soldier means someone that's able to follow orders, toe the party line, and do things on behalf of the group. That's very important to understand, because a lot of times, people get into good law schools. They can get into very good colleges by excelling individually. That means getting good grades and good test scores, or being a good tennis player or athlete, or having other skills that aren't necessarily team skills. And when you get into the employment world, really what things are about, having team skills and being able to follow orders and get into a position where you're doing things on behalf of the group and not necessarily your own interest. And so I'm going to talk a lot today when we start reviewing resumes. I'm sure there'll be a lot of examples, but anytime you show that it could be difficult for you to be managed, meaning you show all these sort of outside interests or very well-defined beliefs about something that could inhibit your ability to follow orders. Those are things that can distract law firms from hiring you. When you're applying to a law firm, your record really, for the most part, is speaking for itself, and you have to look the part. If you went to a very good law school, like Stanford, for example, or you're a second-year law attorney in the corporate department of Mayor Brown, that's really all the employer needs to see. They're not really that concerned about all the other stuff you may have done. And as a matter of fact, it's very interesting, but the resumes, a lot of times you get the most traction, have the least on them. They'll just say the person went to this top law school in college, and then they worked at this top firm, and they don't provide a lot of detail because everybody knows what it means. The more information you start putting on there and trying to tell people things like, my school's ranked number 4 in the country for environmental law, or whatever, it starts making you look weak. And we'll talk more about that. Same thing as if you go to University of Chicago Law School and you spend 8 years of curriculum analysis, it's very impressive, obviously. And everyone knows what these things mean. When you're a law student looking for a job, or a practicing attorney, now these are things, your law school, your practice area, when you're a law student, your grades in your law school and college, and things that speak for themselves. And there's really not much you can do to, beef yourself up and live better. There's only a lot of stuff you can do to hurt yourself. I'll talk a lot about that, but for the most part, if you're applying to large firms, that's what's going on, and smaller firms to a different degree. And really what your resume is, more than anything, is an opportunity to mess up. So just think, the more you say, the more problems you can get into. The more you say, many times, the more it looks like you're making everything about you. The more you say, then you can create a ton of problems. And the most important thing that really law firms want is they want to know if you can do the job, which is your education and your experience, which experience is huge. Your education matters really the first year you're out of school. Then your experience is what starts taking over and mattering more and more every year you go by. But they want to know about your experience and then your education. and whether or not you can do the job. The second thing is whether or not you can do the job. And whether or not you can do the job, it means if your resume shows consistency and so forth, and that it looks like you're going to be able to do the job and you'll stick with it. They want to say that you can be managed, which means that it looks like you're the sort of person that would follow orders, and also whether or not you'll do the job long term, which means will you stick around at the position, and can you put your head down and work? Those are important things. And it's interesting too, like we have on BCG, we have personality tests, and those personality tests can tell you a little bit about what type of person you are. But the world really is divided up into two types of people. There's other types of tests. It's called the DISC profile on BCG. There's other types of personality tests out there. But what a lot of those tests say is they say that there's people that specialize and their whole thing is breaking rules and challenging authority and convention. And then there's people that are very good at following rules and doing things and like the structure. And so law firms really, for the most part, are looking for people in the junior level, at least in the mid-level, that can follow structure and orders and aren't trying to always break rules and so forth. That skill, by the way, can come in very useful in litigation and so forth. But at the same time, that's the model and the type of people are looking for. The biggest thing to understand is the more you stick out and the more you look like you're not part of the tribe of what a law firm is expecting, the more harm you'll do yourself. And because in most law firms experience, these sort of people can be problems. If you need a lot of praise, then it's likely that you'll leave. If you don't get what you want, you may undermine morale. If the firm doesn't seem to advance you fast enough, you may undermine their morale. If you seek unnecessary attention, that's a problem. And most people that try to stick out and have all this stuff on their resume that talks about their mass achievements and so forth, a lot of times it ends up coming back to get them. And they end up many times not getting firm and getting positions. Let the idea of selflessness kind of just come through and what I'm talking about. You need to let partners, senior associates, and others take credit for work. And you need to put in a lot of time showing you're very good at following orders and learning and anticipating people's needs and making it about others before you succeed. And if you don't look like that on paper, it can hurt you. You need to be seen as someone that can commit to a team and not just your own self-interest. You need to be motivated to work hard, even when there's not going to be any immediate benefit. You need to be able to stay with a law firm when things are not doing well and there's trouble. I hate to emphasize this, but this is the biggest thing that really gets people in trouble. And when they're applying to places, especially it's an ego thing. I don't know, there's a whole bunch of ways to describe it, but if your resume gives any indication to a law firm that you're not a soldier, you're probably not going to look good and have a difficult time getting hired. It's all about the employer. And so you need to make everything about the employer. At the same time, you need to look very strong, which we'll talk about how to do that. But a lot of resumes are just exactly the opposite of what they should be and miss the point and don't get hired. So when you'll start seeing that, I'm sure when we look at resumes today and you'll see the mistakes people are making. And so small mistakes, these are the 6 big mistakes that people make that you should try to get off your resume. If you turned it in to be reviewed today, we'll talk about it. But the big one is obviously the first one is just too many. Let me see if I can go back. I don't know why. I'm having a hard time with this webinar. The first one is too many personal details. I don't know this. I can't go back for some reason though. Somebody come in here. But the first one is too many personal details. So a lot of times people will put in, let me guys try to fix this now. Let me show you this. Oh, the scroll wheel. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. The first one is too many, and I'm not going to go into a ton of details about this because I want to review resumes with you guys, but the first one is too many personal details. And what that means is listing political affiliations, listing religious affiliations in areas of the country where that may not go over well in different groups, listing things to do with preferred, you have to be very careful. You want to be hired essentially on your merits. Everyone talks about the importance of diversity. I've written books about it, promoting diversity. So I'm not against diversity, but some resumes, you get them and they talk about how they're diverse like 15 times and then the same resume. And that shouldn't be, you should be promoting, you could certainly note that, but you should be promoting that in other places. I see resumes all the time where they talk about how they were in this organization and then how they did all this nonprofit work for this group while they were practicing law, and they interned at this sort of place. And so that can really make the law firm think that's your priority. In the same sense, I've seen people it's interesting, someone's like a corporate attorney sometimes, they'll list that they were in the Entertainment Law Society and law school. Then they'll list that they represented an entertainment client in their corporate experience. And then they'll list some entertainment internship or something they did their first or second year of law school. And that person obviously looks like they want to be an entertainment attorney, not a corporate attorney. And those kind of people always become entertainment attorneys at some point, and they're never committed. So when you list too many personal details, it can hurt you, and you just have to be very careful. But I typically do not recommend on resumes talking about anything related to things that can make people uncomfortable. So those things would be membership in substance abuse groups. Sometimes it could be political affiliations. I don't want to get too far into this because I don't want to, offend anyone. But obviously, when you list that you're a member of the Federalist Society and staunch Republican and so forth, and are trying to apply for jobs in Los Angeles and New York, that's really not going to help you very much. And then at the same extreme, if you list that you're a member of very different left-wing groups or that are a hardcore Republican and you're trying to apply that to jobs and not hardcore Democrat would be in the heartland, and that may not serve you well too. So you just have to realize that the more you list this sort of stuff, you're going to get yourself into trouble sometimes. And people will just not like you because of that. And that's really unfortunate. I remember talking about the heartland, but I remember one time I had by my mom's second marriage, she married someone in rural Ohio. And when I was in college, I brought my girlfriend who happened to be Jewish, and people couldn't believe it. They were in the middle of nowhere and back then didn't know anybody that had been Jewish, sounds ridiculous because probably most of the people I knew were, and that probably would not have gone over well if she was trying to get a job in that area back then. And so you just have to be careful of listing all your personal details. You want to lead with your work because that's what people are hiring you for. They're hiring you if they like you, and they certainly need to like you, but you want all this stuff to come out later. You don't want to lead with that. And if people think it's helping them, but it really isn't, because it shows stuff that it can turn people off. And certain people are for the death penalty. Other people aren't for the death penalty. Certain people are for abortion. Other people are against abortion. So anytime you get into this stuff in your resume, you're automatically alienating like a group of people many times without knowing it. And that's ridiculous. Why would you do that to yourself? You have to just be very careful. You have to allow people to reach conclusions about you from your work experience and so forth and that stuff. So I would be very careful about that. Many times people will list extremely expensive addresses on their resume where every house is $5 to $10 million or whatever. And that's a bad idea. You don't want to do that. That makes people think you don't have to work. There's all sorts of things. People reach conclusions about people many times based on the city they live in. So in LA, there's cities where Orthodox Jews live. There's parts of the city. There's cities where people are gay live. There's places where people that are hipsters that like to use drugs live. There's just all these different things. So people will reach conclusions about you many times from that. So I often recommend leaving that stuff out. And I'll talk more about that today. But anything that ranks of privilege and so forth is also often looked down. So sometimes people will write down that they're a polo, things like that. You just need to be careful. Irrelevant work experience in education is often a big one. And I see that in resumes all the time. So if you look at your resume and you're listing work that you did while you were in college or before you became an attorney, you need to be very careful with that. Most of the time it's irrelevant. It can also show if you're much older many times, which is, not something you need to worry too much about, but you should worry about it. But many times people will list all these kind of ridiculous classes. I mean, not only ridiculous, but they'll list on their resume that they took like a Dale Carnegie course, or they took some continuing education classes in a business school. And so that's not really going to help you, especially if the topic's not related to what you're doing. Lawyers are really expected to be one-dimensional in the sense that they're focused on their jobs. And if you have time for that other stuff, people often will look down upon it. So listing a relevant work experience can hurt you many times, and you just need to be careful with that. You should look as focused as you can. Now you can show progression in something, but the problem is when your experience looks irrelevant, then people that are interviewing you will assume that you want to do something else. An example would be someone that majored in a complex science and then went to was a scientist for 10 years and then now wants to do, I don't know, something completely unrelated to it in a law firm, corporate law or something. That may not help you. So you need to be careful. People will do a lot of things so just be careful about your work experience. We'll talk about a bunch of examples today, I'm sure, when we start reviewing resumes. Also, a lot of ridiculous formatting and content blocks can hurt you. So people many times will use fancy colors. They'll put just, I don't know, we'll do big letters or small letters or just things that don't look to detract from the message. And those can hurt you. There's in some countries, they'll send a picture which actually I think is people kind of see a LinkedIn profile sometimes on your resume because then they can click through and see your picture, but you don't need your picture. Formatting and content you just pretty much want to standardize things and look as normal as you possibly can because it looks more like flash over substance when you start doing ridiculous formatted things. Not to say that a lot of times in the creative arts, like people applying for marketing jobs and things will do things like that to get your attention. But in the legal profession, it's not that important. Inappropriate word usage, tone, mistakes with dates and so forth are a huge thing. I had an instance once where I was applying for a job and it was a place I ended up getting a job, but it was the graduation date. I think I put June and not May for law school. And my law school got out in May and I interviewed with someone and they knew that the graduation was in May and not June. And they were very offended with it and almost didn't hire me at the firm because of that. They thought it was a very sloppy mistake. I think that was a little extreme, but at the same time, if you make mistakes with dates, if your resume is too wordy, if you make spacing issues, if the tone is off, if all those sorts of things can really do quite a bit of harm to you when you're applying for positions. And so I recommend being as careful as you possibly can with that. When you're doing that, because if you make mistakes with that sort of thing, it can definitely do a lot of harm. And word usage, you're using words, that aren't common. Anytime the word choice in your resume should really be more of something that a fifth grader can understand. So you always want to make things very direct and short to the extent you can, and just be very careful with that. And then exaggerations on your resume. You need to be careful with that because an example is if you're not really doing much in your career and you're exaggerating things, and then you're really not going to get ahead of it with that. The thing with attorneys is attorneys are trained to see through arguments, and so they see through exaggerations and are just instinctually go for the jugular. And then if there's any type of line in your resume, that can hurt you as well. I don't understand why people lie on their resumes. I've had people actually change the law school they went to. I've seen all sorts of exciting things over the years, which I don't understand why people do that, but you have to be very careful. And exaggerations really aren't necessary. One of the things too is I just want to bring this out to everyone. When you're applying for a job, the best way to get a position is often to to find a position that matches your skill set that a lot of other people aren't applying to. And so people believe that they need to exaggerate to get ahead. But in my opinion, the best way to get a position is really to make sure that you're the best applicant for the position, or you have skills that match what the employer is looking for. Most jobs, by the way, over 85% is the figure, our jobs are filled with when there's no job open. So if you're trying to stick out and so forth for a position, that's an option, certainly, but exaggerating is not going to help you. You want to go someplace where your skills are going to be valued and where you're at the right place in the right time and with the right people that like your skills. And then the final one is just saying anything negative about an employer. Anytime you do something like that and you talk negatively about an employer, that can harm you quite a bit because employers will assume that you'll talk negatively about them. And if someone's talking negatively about a law firm that's been around over 100 years and has 1,000 employees, the law firm's probably not going anywhere. And most law firms and employers are very similar. So anytime you say anything negative about an employer on your resume, and people do it all the time, that's going to hurt you. So that's a quick presentation, but I'll just let me see here, go over a couple of things real quickly. And then I may actually change computers because I have editing software and so forth. And I probably want to open that when I look at the resumes. But yeah, so my mom after working for the government for 2 decades, figured it wouldn't be long before she found a good position. She was bored and working in a drab government office with, I would say, very unenthusiastic employees. She was in a horrible job market, which was outside Detroit, which was, there was a bad recession at the time. And she didn't have a lot of experience other than doing civil rights investigations, which is representing people that were discriminated against employers, and then teaching art history at a local university. And so she decided it was time to rework her resume. She believed the problem wasn't her, it had to be her resume. And for the next year or so, she did whatever she could to get ahead with her resume. She took a course in resume construction. She hired an expert to advise her on her resume and talk to her about it. She spent hours on her resume. And this was before the age of word processors. And the completed resume was several pages long and lots of action verbs and so forth. And it described all sorts of bullets and large words and formatting. It was very fancy and things she'd done decades ago and all sorts of stuff that was really irrelevant. It could have all been one page and it didn't have to have all this detail. It would have taken probably an hour to go through it. And so that was my example when I started applying to jobs. And I thought I needed the same type of resume myself. And I did a resume like that. And my roommate, who was a former hockey player in a very good college, saw it, was amused, and started showing it to others. And I started and showed it to other people, and they certainly thought it was funny. And even now, I don't think I'm embarrassed, but just the idea was very embarrassing at the time. And the resume made me look very bad. I had sections about increasing my sales in my asphalt business, being the youngest instructor in the history of the political science department at the University of Chicago, being nominated a Rhodes Scholar, president of fraternity, SAT scores, and even the reference to the prestigious boarding school I was attending that at the time was ranked, very highly. It was ridiculous. No one cares about this stuff. What this kind of stuff does, and I thought it was important to list all this stuff on my resume, but this stuff is not something that people care about. All this does is it shows that you think very highly of yourself, and you're probably not going to be able to be molded into what a law firm wants. And I eventually realized that much less is more. You have to be able to fit in. And everything that I talked about in my resume was just all about me. And it didn't really show how I could fit in with others and do well. And in any employer, you're really expected to fit in, get along, try not to act better than your peers, and to be able to do the work. And that's what people want. And when people see too much on a resume, they think this person's going to be difficult to control, or this person has too much to do, or too much time on their hands, or thinks too highly of themselves. And and again, there's nothing wrong with someone being impressed with themselves. There's different personalities in the world, and there's people that are very good at different types of things, and that's fine. But if you want to get a position in most employers, that's something you need to do. So we'll take a quick break just for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go back and we'll review resumes. Again, if you haven't sent your resume in, Michael will post his information. And then the break will probably be anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes right now, because I'm probably going to get set up on another computer just so I can give you access to proofreading software and so forth. And any questions you guys have about your resume while I'm reviewing them, you can also type them in, but I should be able to get through everyone's resume today. And it often takes a while, but if you have questions when your resume comes up, I'm happy to answer those too. And thank you for whoever's idea it was to do this week. This is great. And next week, we'll also be doing a cover letter review. So that should be fun as well. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thanks.
So I need stuff. And then they'll see the whole resume full screen and said, yeah, I'm not going to stop it. I'm just going to.
Okay. So hold on one second. Let's go to the first resume. This is legal counsel, dedicated diligent solutions order fragment, professional fiber applications. Okay. In New Mexico. Okay. So I'm just looking at all this right now. Okay. So here's just a few things with this resume. The first thing is, see here, resume, spelling. Okay. Remediative. Okay. So the first thing is I don't know the formatting issue, or maybe something happened with this when it was being formatted. These sorts of discussions here at the beginning are sometimes they're a sign that the resume's been done by a professional resume company. And I'm not saying this was or but it may have been. And the problem with that is you want to look like you're in demand with an employer. And so sometimes laying stuff out this way is, let me just make sure I do all the different things, is not the most helpful thing. I don't know why I don't have my couple things open on here, but so you want to be careful. I don't have the,
It's working and trading stuff, but we had to close all documents.
oh, wow. Okay. Is ProReady working on it, or it's bizarre? Okay. That's too bad. I was moved to this computer because of the editing software. Okay. All right, Michael. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, I don't know why we're not getting the grammar software in this computer either, but that's too bad. I actually have another computer I can move to too. But so here, just give me 1 second here. I'm a little disappointed that I don't have my editing software. But yeah, so this particular resume, let's see here. So the employer career experience, many times you want to shorten things. Let me just see here. A little upset about this grammar. Give me 1 second. I just want to see if I can get up. I may have to open a separate document for this. So give me 1 second. Yeah, I will. I'll go to the website. It's pardon me? Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it that way. It's fine. But on the website?
Good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it that way. Maybe could you upload all the resumes to, I guess I'll review it this way. That's fine. I guess I can just paste it there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go into, let me just see here. Sorry, we're just looking at this here. There's a lot of work that this resume needs. It's a very good example. I just want to,
That works. You just want to share the screen.
okay. I'm going to be sharing something in a second here, guys. Okay. Yeah. Second. Okay. So here we go. Just 1 sec. Sorry about this. So in terms of when you look at a resume, you can see a lot of problems here, just an overall score, which there's a lot of suggestions that this needs. You can see the white collar should have an apostrophe after it.
Just make sure to change the screen.
Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen.
Yeah. So you can.
We should be sharing on the right screen. No, it's sharing.
I was sharing just the Word document. That's what. So
now it's sharing that
big screen too.
Screen two. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. So this is the correct thing. So you can see here, like these changes that you're making, that I'm making. And a lot of times these changes are fairly simple. And this is part of the problem with this sort of stuff is when someone that understands English very well reads your resume, and these are the kind of things that they see. So you always want to be very careful about these sorts of errors. And then you can also see all these different errors. So Grammarly is a great tool. There's also another one called Pro Writing Aid, which is a very good tool that you can use. But I definitely, in this particular example, you can see a lot of the problems with this particular resume. And they're not all, that serious, but you can see a lot of those. So in terms of how this resume is organized, I don't necessarily this thing that comes on the top. I think that you pretty much would want to lead with your experience. And then all this stuff at the top, if it was me, I would remove it. So I'll just show you that. And then I would, it looks like your corporate counsel, and what a lot of the stuff is doing here is limiting you. So you're talking about OSHA, then you're talking about contracts, then you're talking about all these different types of work, and then advising employee relations, all these sorts of things. So what you're doing really when you're listing all these different things about COVID, a landlord dispute and things, is you're limiting what could actually be a very marketable resume into something that makes it look like you're doing just small stuff. So I would put something in more advise business on all aspects of corporate and litigation, something along those lines. It's much stronger than what you have, that instead of limiting yourself to what you're talking about, because what you've done in the existing resume is fairly limiting. It limits you. And then ADA group, I like this because it's of litigation, all aspects of business operation, including contracts, and then I would just say contracts. And this is going to provide an example. This is a good resume to start with. It just pretty much anything that you did, I would leave it there, but I would just say, put in just large practice areas. And then the idea is that you can do different sorts of things. And then this is a senior associate. Again, when you're talking about animal service laws and things like that, those are typically going to limit you and a lot of this stuff. So again, I would talk about what practice areas you were in. So just instead of listing all these things, just what practice areas did you do? and just very short. A lot of times what people do is what you're doing here. And this resume, by the way, is much better. If I had an in-house counsel job and I saw this, I would be impressed with this. If I saw the other things that were on there before, I wouldn't be. And then here, just write prosecutor, because again, DUIs, stalking, these are, I would just say assistant district attorney. See, available to 4 police forces. None of that's important. So I would just say prosecutor. That's all you need. Everyone knows what an assistant district attorney does. And then whatever type of associate you are. So a lot of this, you can see that when we were talking earlier today, we talked about, and then these are all contract jobs, which is okay. So let's see, the problem is all these things are limiting you. And also, and again, the biology teacher thing you don't need, the law clerk thing you don't need. I would just say something along the lines of then 2011 to 13 law clerk. Okay. So all I would do, I would just say something along these lines between 2011 and 16. I might even say something along these lines between 2011, worked in several different law firms and finished as an associate, most recent firms, most recently at Jacobs and King between. So the reason I'm doing that is and then our Parker McIntyre, yeah, that's it. Then I would just say law firm experience and then ADA group associate. And then this is much stronger. I think anybody that's on this, anybody watching can see that the resume before basically was listing all these things that weren't that important. And now it just looks, it's much stronger. And then listing that you were a contract attorney and didn't want to work at a permanent job or couldn't get a job was not going to help you. Bio teacher does not help you. Education, participating in these clinics doesn't help you. International study abroad doesn't help you. Writing a government document doesn't help you. That's unrelated to your practice area. At University of Alabama. Okay, fine. All these solid waste things you've done don't help you. They're related to other practice areas. So this is your resume. It's 1 page. This is all you need. This resume, by the way, that we fixed is going to get you a hell of a lot more interviews than what you were showing before. This is all you guys need, all you need to do. And this will be, the recording of this will be, and that's it. So you don't want to distract people by showing you were working as a contract attorney, that you were writing papers that had nothing to do with what you're trying to do, that you were, you've done all these different things. This way you look like a strong attorney right here, and that's it. And then starting to put in all this other stuff. Wow, this is not going to help you either. Special counsel, you're showing you're a contract attorney. Now you're showing your legal secretary. Oh wait, this is another resume. I'm sorry. This may be another resume. Yeah, but this is all you need here for this particular resume is this. That kind of fixes that. And I think this resume right now is much better. Let's see here. Okay, let's go to the next one. Second, I hope I'm sharing the right screen. And just so you guys can see the idea of the before after here too. You take off the summary, you just put your name, you put your experience, and then you shorten everything down. And this is all people want, because all you're doing in the existing resume is all these things here are essentially talking you out of a job. The last thing you want to do is, here you have criminal litigation, you have federal courts, you have all this stuff, and you're talking yourself out of a job. And so most people do this. And then you have COVID-19. No one's going to know what to make out of any of this. It's completely confusing. And contracts and all these things. The idea is that an attorney can do anything. Just because you've done something doesn't mean you're an expert. And listing all the things you've done on there is not helpful. I would recommend anybody that's had a lot of jobs in a short period of time. All you need to do is just say between 2011 and 16, worked in several different law firms, most recently as an associate. You can say I was an associate, sometimes as a contract attorney. You don't need to list all those firms. That's ridiculous. It's going to hurt you. So you don't want to do that. Okay, let me just see here. Let me try one other thing here. I'm going to try, sorry, give me 1 second. Someone was saying there was a way to upload, sorry about that. Upload these resumes to Grammarly. That'll make it a lot easier. I shouldn't be sharing my screen. That's okay. What are the secrets? Let me just see how this works. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to just uploaded some resumes here, guys, and then we should be all set. Okay, great. So now I'm uploading all these documents here. It's uploading. But the big thing that I think that's important to understand with the resume we just reviewed is just, this is for everyone's benefit. is that when you don't want to put things on your resume necessarily. Did it upload? Oh no, I know. I'm trying to get it uploaded. Sorry, guys. It doesn't look. Oh, here we go. No, maybe not. Was it upload? Sorry, I'm just trying to upload something. It may take a little while to upload because it's such a big document. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna cut and paste this document into an editor. Sorry about that. 1 second. Whoops. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Hold on a second. Up share. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Second here. I'm trying to upload all of your resumes into a folder here. So that's what's taking a little bit of time. So Michael, if you could, Michael, could you break it down to 2 documents of 30 pages each? Okay, thanks. All right, let's go to the next one here. I'll look at I'm going to put several of them up there. So just give me 1 second, guys. So I'm doing one more. So I apologize for the delay here. I will get this and then we'll be all set. And these are fun because there's a lot of, I love the fact that there's so much improvement that can be made to these resumes. Let's call this resume batch 1. The one big thing too, I would say that's important for everyone is that if you are not proofreading things or not using the proofreading software, you're really doing yourself like a ton of harm. And the reason is just because, let me see, I'll upload this. Give me 1 second. I upload it and then we'll be all set. It's because most of the resumes that I'm seeing, and I always see, will have quite a few errors on them. And okay, here we go. Okay, so here's the next resume. Let me share my screen. And thank you for bearing with me, everyone. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this resume is for you can see it's for a paralegal specialist. And you can see, I don't know what USA SBA means. And you can see all the problems here with this. This is something of a paralegal specialist. So we typically look at only attorneys, but you can see a lot of the errors here and things. So again, the big thing is you don't want to see any of this stuff. And I don't know why we're doing oh, I see. So this is a Nigerian attorney. Okay, let's see. So Bachelor of Law, Nigeria. Okay. Okay. All this stuff, these things, this is very common. People will always list that they understand different programs and things on their resume. These should always come off. No one in the US at least it's expected that you would understand that. You can see here, like this thing where it says oversaw the scheduling and planning, like these are capitalization errors. And the problem is in the US, a lot of times this is very common with foreign resumes and it's something that you'll see quite a bit of, but it's literally, there's so many errors here that it's slowing down the computer or the search. So you have to be very careful about all this stuff and these errors. So you can see all of the spelling errors and so forth aren't good, but you never want to list your skills and certifications on your resume, regardless if you think they're important. This international experience, I would just call this experience. Everyone knows if it's in Nigeria, it's international. And then whatever really in charge of organization, the office library isn't going to help you get an attorney job in the US. So a lot of these things are hurting you. People are going to look at this and wonder, why is that all this person did? So I would just say junior associate. And then as you get into these things up here, you don't need to talk about the hours per week you did. No one cares about that. You may think that's a big deal because they don't give everyone lots of time there, but I would take that off. And then your legal secretary, which is fine. But I would almost say what I would recommend for all this experience, because you've been doing basically non-attorney work, is I would put down as my work experience, I would probably try to put it into one line. And I would say since prior to passing the bar, I've worked at various firms in different capacities between these dates. So I would almost say something along the lines of this. And this goes for everyone that has experience that doesn't necessarily look that exciting to people, if that makes sense. And so your experience basically is showing that you're not an attorney right now. And so I would almost recommend doing something along these lines, going experience. I'm probably going to have to not get out of this document and open an individual one on Grammarly because this is too slow. But the idea would be you would write something along the lines of what your experience to your associate, and then you would do something to encapsulate your experience doing these various jobs as a legal secretary, as a paralegal specialist and everything, and as a contract attorney. You would probably write pre-bar admission or something along those lines, and then work from that piece of information, if that makes sense. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to speed this up. But the problem with this resume right now is it basically says you're not an attorney. And so if everything on there says you're not an attorney, then that's not really helping you. And you passed the bar, which isn't an easy thing to do. So I would recommend on that particular resume, my thought would be the best thing to do really would be to be very careful and take all of this experience, and let me just make sure you're showing that, and summarize it in a way that it looks more, it doesn't look as, it doesn't, these other titles don't really stick out so much. So I would say I would put dates between pre-bar, who worked as a law clerk, paralegal, and other roles between these dates. That's what I would do. Something along those lines. Take off the hours. No one needs to put how many hours a week you work. Again, that may seem maybe something that you are impressed with, but it's not necessarily something that employers are going to care that much about. Okay, let me get a few more resumes in here. Not too many. I apologize. And there's a lot of good resumes here, so I'm excited to review all these, and I'll get to everyone's today. Let me just see here. Yeah, they're still very slow. I don't know. Yeah, but it'll be okay. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I would, if you go onto my laptop, you may be able to, which is upstairs, you may be able to set that up. Yeah, and that may work. Okay, just 1 second, everyone. Upload this stuff. And then this will go a lot faster now that we're fixing this. Okay. So we got a smaller batch of these now. This should work better. Okay. Okay. So here's another one. This is objective is to get an associate job. You can see that there's all these spacing issues again, which isn't good. And then high level competency and legal consultancy in relation to client needs. All this stuff it's not really how people talk, and everything should be written how people talk. So this isn't how people talk, and it is how people may talk in certain parts of the world. But if you're looking for this sort of thing, no one needs to put an objective on their resume. That may be your objective, but doesn't match necessarily what the employer needs. So you don't have to put an objective. Everyone should take an objective off of their resume if you have it. The other thing is this particular thing, saying it's a top ranked guitar law firm in association with SNAP awards. Again, all this stuff, reviewing contracts, high quality service to gain clients' confidence. This is an example, like I was talking about in the webinar, of extra language. It's not necessary. Receiving requests. These are just things that lawyers do as a matter of course. So you don't need to working in teamwork, attending as one person, establishing, none of this stuff is really keeping up to date with changes in the law. You're basically just talking about what attorneys do. None of this is, you just need, practice area. That's it. That's all you need. What is your practice area? And that's going to look a lot better. And then same thing here, drafting contracts, all attorneys draft contracts, all attorneys search documents, all attorneys, what is your work and behave in a professional manner? I hope so. Again, none of this carry out duties. None of this stuff matters. It's just all things that attorneys do as a matter of course. The problem with all these resumes that I'm seeing today too, that I don't like, is everyone is just explaining the law and giving general legal advice. This is all stuff that just attorneys do as a matter of course. And so there's no reason to have all this stuff. You can put your practice area. So you do that. One of the things I'm concerned about with this particular resume, by the way, and I'm sure that anybody that's a student of mine is going to, and then when you upload it, it'll be there. Okay, let me just go on here. And then okay, sorry, 1 second, guys. I'm getting this set up on a better thing. Give me 1 second. Okay, I just want to make sure it logs in. Okay. It should if it's on Army. Thanks. Okay, so we'll fix all the stuff we're having with that. So this stuff, the big thing I'm concerned about with this is, again, the proofreading and stuff is something you need to fix. But the big thing with this particular resume is this person has had a lot of jobs. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, and they only stayed someplace for a year. And so that's probably is something that people, I don't know about this in association with SAP law and awards for the firm. That's not you that's getting the award. So I just say an associate. Again, you don't need to talk about the awards the firm's got. No one cares. People can look it up themselves, but that's someone else's work, probably not an associate. So this you can see is much better. I'm not confident that it's a good idea to list all these firms. I've told other people on the call that it's often smart to try to shorten this up, but that's fine. All these courses, certificate in arbitration and mediation, I don't think certificate's necessary. I don't think these online legal courses are necessary. I don't think a lot of the stuff is necessary. I don't think the certificate in English is necessary. I don't think you got it.
For great. Sorry.
I don't think a lot of these degrees are necessary. And I don't think all the stuff breaking down your experience is necessary. A lot of times people and resumes will do all this stuff. They'll list all these things and they'll think that it's very helpful. And it's really not. You need to list things. It says here, brilliant communication, good teamwork skills, but brilliant communication is just being very direct many times. And again, not making mistakes. So a lot of this stuff needs to come out. And language, again, I think that's probably okay. Computer, again, you don't need to tell people you're excellent on the internet. I think everybody is good on the internet. And I don't know having a good grade is really that necessary. I don't know what a DES international law is, but this resume is much better, but you do need to list your practice area. Because you've had a lot of positions, I would say I would almost be more comfortable if you did something along the lines of between 2013 and March of 2019 was an associate, several law firms. And many times what you need to do too is if you leave firms, the problem is like anytime a law firm's interviewing you, they're concerned of, and it's important to show everyone this, they're concerned of, can you do the job? Do you want the job? Yeah. Do you want the job? Is one. Yeah. Do you want the job? Can we manage you? And will you do the job long term? So can you do the job? If you have all these different things going on here in terms of your practice areas and the work, if you're just a generalist, then that's going to confuse people because they're reading all these different things. And then many times, one of the things that's important for everyone on this webinar to understand, and I think I also emphasized to you guys earlier, is that if you list that you worked on, whatever you list, if you list all these different types of cases you worked on and say you're listing misdemeanors and all these things, then people are going to tag you as a type of attorney that does misdemeanor cases, which is fine if that's what you want. And that's what the previous one. If you list that you do international arbitration and that's all you do, then people are going to peg you as that. And if you if you list 10 different things, and people are going to think you do everything, and they need a certain type of attorney. So you need to be very careful about painting yourself into a corner. So attorneys from large law firms look down on attorneys that do misdemeanors. Attorneys in law firms that do criminal work think attorneys that do corporate work wouldn't want to work there. So you have to be very careful about how you describe your experience. And then you also have to be very careful about how you describe it. Most of the time, less is better. This particular person, what I would be concerned about was, can you do the job? Because they have all these different things, whatever the job is. If the job requires one particular skill, the odds are pretty good that they can. Do you want the job? They probably do. Can we manage you? Probably not. Will you do the job long term? Probably not. So there's just so much movement here. And in a very good grade versus a great grade, if your grades aren't awesome, you just need to kind of keep them out of there, man. Just don't say anything about them. Don't say I got a B average. Just keep them out of there. No one, it's a big deal to you, but this person right now, if I saw this resume now compared to what I saw before, I would be like, this is interesting. I want to know more. But now the way the resume reads, that there's just way too much. There's too many things wrong with it. It's just too much. So I hope that improves it. Okay, let's see this one. Jameling Law Firm, Principal Attorney, January to 22. Okay, so this person is a corporate attorney, corporate and real estate attorney. Oh, and then they're also doing, okay, so this person needs to choose, and this is fine. So by the way, the date on here is January 22. Anybody that if you lose a position and I don't know if this is person's the owner of this firm or working in a law firm, but if you lose a position many times, you want to be very careful about listing that you want to try to get extra time with the employer. Many times they'll let you stay on their website and all sorts of things, but you can't just, if you're listing a closing date like this, okay, so just upload them and I'll start looking at them there. Okay, thanks. All right, so we're all set with the resumes now. So here you can see that says this is hard. So this particular resume basically does corporate law. And so this is buyers of business. So there'd be corporate, mergers or acquisition, M&A. Then this is corporate governance, then real estate, And what else? And also do a small amount of immigration. So the problem with this resume, do a small amount of immigration. Oh, I would say something along the lines of specialize in, this person doesn't have to specialize in, this looks like a solo maybe, but I don't know. But solo specialize in M&A, corporate governance, real estate. So the problem with this resume is you have a couple different things to think about. Also do divorce, what else? Immigration and so forth. You don't need to say that you supervise a paralegal and two legal assistants. Again, that's a big deal to some people, but that's not something you need to put in your resume. So any information about supervising people, it's just expected. And assisting people in uncontested divorce, probably that means that no one's fighting. It's probably not something you need to list on there. And the problem with immigration and divorce is they are not related to transactional work. So they're not related to these are transactional. So this resume right here, by the way, if you put down you specialize in M&A and corporate governance, and that's all you have, you will get jobs. If you put down that you specialize in immigration, you will get jobs. All this stuff is going to make it very difficult because what's going to happen is someone, and this is actually an interesting resume to talk more about. So, this specializing in corporate governance equals jobs. If you say, I'm specialized in real estate, jobs. If you put specialized in immigration, lots of jobs. That's actually very in demand, tons of jobs. And I want to make this point to everyone on the call. And I hope a lot of times when I notice sometimes when I'm listening to people, like I don't always pay attention. And so I hope everyone's paying attention here because there's a big lesson in this particular resume. Specialize in divorce. And you wouldn't say specialize, you would just say divorce. And this person does not specialize in divorce, but I'll just put it in there. So the problem is with this resume so far is that what's going on is lots of jobs, is that this particular person is saying that they do one particular, they're saying that they do all these different things. And because they say that, and I'm trying to see if I can send this over to you. Anyway, if you say you're doing all these different things, then no one's going to hire you. And if you say you do one thing many times, like this resume, if you say you specialize in M&A and corporate governance, and you've been doing that for 3 years, you will get interviews, probably even at mid-sized firms. If you say you specialize in real estate, you probably get interviews. I'm just telling you what the market is. It's small firms. If you say you specialize in immigration, you'll get lots of interviews. If you specialize in divorce, you get lots of interviews. But saying you do all these different things just makes people think that you don't know what you're doing or anything, and it just freaks them out. So if it was me with this particular resume, you said you did 400 immigration, I would just say you do immigration. If you do that, you're going to get a job. If this is your own firm and you're still working there, you write the present because otherwise it looks like you've lost your job. Okay, the law offices of Bakar Afar Barkash. Okay, let's keep going down here. When did you graduate from law school? And there's a lot of work that this resume needs. This is a great example. Okay, you graduated in 2018. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about here. Okay, so you graduated in 2018 because you were a law clerk. I would just say if you graduated in 2018, there's nothing wrong with having started your firm or at this firm in 2019. I would just put that there. I would say I took a year off after law school. If you want to list this stuff, that's perfectly fine. People are going to wonder, one of the things they're going to wonder is, why were you a law clerk? This is a small period of time. This is only a couple months. And then looks like this is 3 months. So no, I wouldn't have anything on there. I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think that you need to have anything on there. I would just take all this out. It's not taking you, it's a job, by the way, of a couple months. It's not really a real job. So I just would take it off. I don't think the 2 months you worked at workers' compensation and no fault has nothing to do with this work. So all this stuff needs to come off. It's just showing a lot of that you're not working out wherever you are. And then this here, this is fine if you want. I guess it shows you got some experience working as a court thing, immigration. This is family, civil, all these are not related. So I would just probably take this out. But per diem, I don't think you want to put per diem. I would just say court interpreter. Why would you say per diem? That's going to make it look like it's going to hurt you. Student attorney, no. Creating law enforcement, no. Judicial law intern one summer, Sure, that's fine. I think that's okay. But again, court interpreter after you graduated from law school, all right, that's probably okay. Maybe, I don't know, but I would just say judicial law intern. You don't need to put in all this stuff here either. So all these things, by the way, well, legal volunteer 1 week, no, this comes out. Brooklyn Defender Services, fall intern. No. Summer legal intern. Okay, that's fine. These are summer jobs. These are fine. So this is your first summer, second summer. That's fine. But I wouldn't even put those in. I would just probably say, and take this out. All this stuff, by the way, it's weakening your case. It's just showing that the problem with all these jobs is they're limiting you. And that's a big problem. They're board member, no. Summer intern, another summer internship. No, all these jobs are just not, they're just short-term jobs. All they're doing is drawing attention to the fact that you've had a lot of jobs, which no one wants to be the next person to take a chance on someone that's had a lot of jobs. And there are all sorts of different subject matters. So these different subject matters are going to draw you away. So if you had just a resume that looked like this, specialized in immigration, that's fine. Yeah, these are just very short jobs. So I would just say other experience. This is probably going to other experience area. You graduated in 2018, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I would just say other experience. Don't want to draw the idea when you're making a case for anything is you don't want to draw experience of things that doesn't match what people are looking for. So every resume needs a scent. And a scent means, and by the way, the rule is for resumes is that you typically want to put your education first if you're less than 5 years. So I would just say, this is all you need. So you just need Doctor of Jurisprudence. None of the stuff matters. And it's not jurisprudence. It's just JD 2000, whatever you call it. And then John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Masters of Public Policy, 2014. We're so committed. That's it, 2014. And then I would just say, yeah, that's the problem is once you start listing all these foreign universities, it can hurt you, but I think that's probably okay to list that. But again, just take this off and take this off as well. I would probably take this diploma in intellectual property rights. You're not an intellectual property attorney, so you probably don't want that. And then you can put your languages at the end of the resume like this, and that's that. So I will be back in 1 second. I'm just checking on this other document. All right. So we're in good shape. So I hope this makes sense on this particular resume that you just break it down. You make it like one thing, and making it one thing like this is going to make it shorter. Anybody that went to a foreign law school is probably okay. It's not the end of the world for you, but at the same time, I would recommend, and again, it's foreign, if you go to school overseas, that's fine, but it does detract from the overall message. And so I guess one way to think about all this, and let me see if I can pull up the before and after resume here real quick. But one way that you should be thinking about your resume that's very important for everyone on this call is imagine going to buy a used car and you go to buy the used car and really all you're interested in is the fact that it's a car. You don't really care too much about anything else. You need a car, and it's a black car. And then when it's a black Nissan or something. But then all of a sudden the salesman starts saying to you, my God, you got to realize who owned this before. And it was used in a crime and somebody did this with it. And we took the tires off and did this and this and this and this. And all of a sudden the car may not look as attractive and you won't want it. So the problem with these resumes, when you put too much on it, like this person graduated in 2018, they've had a law firm specializing in one thing, hopefully since 2019, you don't need a lot of detail about it because everyone knows what M&A and corporate governance is, or everyone knows what this stuff is. They've had some other experience as a court interpreter before doing that. And then they've had some summer jobs, and that's all you need. If you put more information on there, you're going to show other things that are going to detract from you getting the ultimate position is the problem. And so that's the issue with that. So let me share some more with you guys. And I think there are some questions. So if people have questions that we can try to answer those too, but I just want to get through these as quickly as I can, these resumes. Okay, so let's do resume batch one. Let me see. Okay, so this is resume batch one. So that's not what I want. Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm looking at the next resume here. Okay, let me upload the next resume. Just give me 1 second. And I'm trying to do a good job with this because I think a lot of you guys are all seeing where everyone's making very similar mistakes, and it's important to understand this. I think also if you're I'm uploading anyone now. If you're not a U.S. attorney and you're from another country, which obviously I know a lot of people are, then because it's what this country is made of, then you need to be careful and really do a good job kind of looking at the standards that the US does with resumes because they're different. Okay, so here's a good resume, a good attorney that I'm sure will do well. Okay, so this is an attorney that's currently working as a clerk. And you can see here, I mean, a clerk an important position for working in, especially DC is a very difficult, competitive place to get a position. But you can also see here these mistakes that have been made with these apostrophes and so forth. So I'm going to fix all these right away. And by the way, you don't have to use Grammarly. There's also Pro Writing Aid and other ones, but you do need to use these things. But you can see here, compared to a lot of the foreign attorneys you looked at, that there's definitely a lot fewer, and this would be two, of course, mistakes. This particular resume, for those of you guys watching, is for a very good attorney, but at the same time, you're still seeing a lot of these problems. And again, it's important to look at these things, the more senior, and this no comma and so forth. So there were a lot of small mistakes that we correct in this good resume. Okay, so this person is a law clerk. So all law clerks draft orders and so forth, and this is not necessary. Everyone knows what that means. So I hate to do it. I was a clerk as well, but not necessary. From accountings, okay. So this person was a law clerk from April 21. When did they graduate from law school? 21. Okay. So this was during April. Oh, wow. So this April to July 21. Wow. So that was during the bar exam. Okay. Well, that's fine, I guess. Now I would just say law clerk. I think in here, I would just say, you'd say worked in, litigation law clerk. And then I think this is fine. One of the things for everyone to remember on this call is that most attorneys don't like intellectuals. I don't know why it is, but it's just, even though you have to be a good student to go to law school, I would be careful with this. I would probably put this under other experience. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's very interesting. But and then I would put down this, just a law clerk as well. And then put a few lines, litigation law clerk, litigation, because that's pretty much, unless you want to be a trust and states attorney, I would just say litigation law clerk. The problem with law clerk, and this looks, I would say summer associate, if that's what it was. I'm assuming it is, but if it's not, I would just say July 20 to 24. If there's no title, if you're not a summer associate and they just, I don't know whatever the reason for that was, I would just list the dates, and you don't need to put a title. Not everybody needs a title. You could just but here you were actually a law clerk, sounds like, and then that's fine. So all this right here is very good, but you just want to make sure here you just put litigation clerk. The reason it's important is to put litigation here is because what employers are looking for is SEN. And for litigation, worked in litigation, whatever. If you were a summer associate, you would put that summer associate, whatever, litigation. So what employers are looking for is SENT. And by the way, I see this person is involved in the military. Congratulations on having a resume that's much shorter than it needs to be. Than most military people. Those resumes are just a freaking nightmare to go through. But everyone knows these are good firms. So everyone on the call wouldn't know that, but these are good firms. And that experience would go there. The other thing that we spoke about a minute ago was your education. So you always want to make sure that you list your education first. If you're less than 5 years out of law school, it's just what people expect. It's just the convention. So you would list your education, and you can say Juris Doctorate, that's fine, but you don't need to say class of 21. You can just put the actual date of that you graduated, which is fine. And then this is grade 3.71, GPA, cum laude is awesome. So let's talk about some of this other stuff on here. So Moot Court Honor Society, semifinalist, executive board member, Dean's Fellow, Certificate of Excellence, three-time top grade. Okay. Normally I would say remove all this stuff, most of this stuff. But the thing is this particular resume shows, I would try to shorten this. I don't know, being an executive board member or Dean's Fellow, no one knows what that means. Top grades, probably okay. Student Bar Association, So a lot of these things are just kind of like semifinalist draws attention to almost to mediocrity. So you never want to do something like that. I like that you run the moot court. I just don't know you need to say semifinalists. I like that you run the executive board member, but I don't even know what that means. I don't know what the Dean's Fellow means. I think this is important. The top grades are important. And then maybe this journal is important. Because all this is showing, what's good about this is it's showing that you have an interest in litigation. That again puts people on the scent. This is good too. Moot court club's fine. That you founded, that's great. Summer internship, I normally would say remove that, but what this resume is doing, which is very important, is giving a scent for someone that's very interested in litigation. So if I was a litigation employer and I saw this, I would say this person wants to do that. I'm very smart hiring them as opposed to kind of other types of stuff. And the person has good grades. They look basically set to get a good job. And then I would say other experience. This is what Jimmy Carter used to do. It's a very good job, by the way. People that are, this is a very, very good training, makes people very smart. These nuclear reactor people. This is great. Okay, this is fine. I like all this. This is a good resume. So with this, you should be able to easily get very good jobs. Again, it doesn't, the fact that I don't know what American universities rank in terms of law school, it's a good law school, it's a great law school, but this resume, the way it is, should be able to get plenty of jobs. I almost would remove this stuff, but I'd just put it under honors and activities, maybe, but that's fine. Yeah, and this could be other experience. If you want, you can put that under there. But other than that, this is a great resume. I like this resume. I think that, yeah, I don't see any problems with it. This person should be able to get multiple jobs, lots of good jobs with this resume without too much trouble. One thing is that this particular resume is going to get a different reception in different parts of the country. You could even put, I almost would like to put this in interest and or even participate interest or something, and how he's participated in moot court college, top, all these things, saying the thing that's so good about you're in the top of your class. So you don't need to draw attention to things that are lesser qualifications. So people take a look at this and they're like, wow, that's great. People, and then, and this stuff here, I'm assuming you did pretty well in college too. You might want to put some information about that, but everything here looks pretty good. And yeah, so everything looks pretty good. I think this is perfectly fine. So this resume should get quite a few interviews and do well. You just need to apply to a lot of places. One thing just to bring up to everyone's attention is DC tends to be a little bit difficult to get because there's so many people that want to work in DC as litigators and so forth. So it can be a very competitive market many times. And so sometimes people will feel like it's much harder for them to get a job there than maybe in other areas, but it's not. So even though this is a really good resume, this particular person may not have as much luck as they want getting a position, but it's a great resume. And I think someone would be crazy not to hire that person. And so it's just, there's a lot of good things about it. Okay. So let me go to another resume here. Okay. Try to cut and paste things. Thank you, by the way, for everyone who sent these resumes. Okay, this particular resume, let's see. Okay, so again, these summaries at the top of resumes are, and you can see here, like all these alerts for issues it should be with a high capacity for problem solving, highly regulated. All these things need to be proofread very carefully. And these, again, profession and Westlaw and these things sound like a big deal, but attorneys are basically expected to do that. So most of these summaries I recommend taking off. I also recommend you can certainly put your bar admissions on here, but if you're working for someone in New York and you've worked there as a attorney, that they know you're admitted there. So you can put it at the end of your resume if you like, but you don't necessarily need to put that there. The summaries, people like them because it's just something that resume companies do, but it's not something that you need. So it's not something that a resume needs as a summary at the top. Okay. And it shouldn't be provides, it should be provide, but that's a whole separate discussion. Let's see what this person does. So they're a legal counsel agency, federal draft procurement contracts, related transactional documents, ensure compliance with, okay, manages sports team 5. You don't need that. Procurement contracts. I'm just going to get a sense of what this agency attorney, I don't know. There's no dates on here. Okay. So let's talk about the Board of Elections of the City of New York, Office of General Counsel, New York City Housing Office. Okay, so what I would almost like to see here, and I'm not going to get into too much detail about how you do it, but I would almost like to see you combine these two into one to one employer, because the problem is this: working as a contract attorney again is not the end of the world. But I would almost say something along the lines of have worked. And again, maybe these are not, or maybe this is to the present, or there's no dates on here. So anyway, but I would almost like to see if you've worked with the New York Housing Authority and the Board of Elections. I would also like to say the City of New York. So something along those lines: City of New York, and then, or New York City, New York City, New York City, and then I would say New York City Board of Elections and Housing, New York City. I guess you could put obviously legal counsel and then your contract attorney. I don't want for you to be dishonest, but if there's a way you can combine these two employers into one, or you could say between the City of New York and like those the City of New York, and then you could put the date. So it'd be January 18th, December 2018 to present. So then you don't really have, or whatever, December. And then you will put something along the lines of currently an agency attorney, New York City Housing Authority, Office of Legal Counsel. Prior to this, Board of Elections. And then what you're doing here is you're trying to put people on the scent of one thing. And then what's interesting though about this is all legislative and things that are related to this type of work. So it's all legislative. So I would take whatever, and again, I don't understand all of your experience, but I would just from my standpoint, this resume is going to be better if it doesn't talk about this contract stuff, but it doesn't necessarily need not to. This is a very good legislative type attorney. This is a marketable resume, by the way. It's very marketable if someone knows what they're doing with it. And it could be marketable in-house and then all sorts of law firms that do this type of work. So this is actually a very good resume. But I think that this work needs to be somehow summarized this, and then maybe one or two lines here. That's what I would do there. 1 or 2 lines. And then that's all you need. And this is a good resume, but that's pretty much, I don't know that you want to have all this information here. Then again, same thing here. You don't need to tell people you've appeared in court. You don't need to tell people these different types of cases. You don't need to tell people you've provided strategic guidance to cultivate. And that's just kind of fluff. Again, this needs to be shortened to basically describe the substantive work you do, and then that's it. And then substantive work. And then the same thing here. Problem is when you start talking about, I did this thing, I appeared before this court, it just doesn't look good, because it's just stuff that all attorneys do. So remember, work maybe one line. And then this is much better. It just looks much more impressive. And then don't put your recognition for pro bono, the Health Law Society. Health Law has not, the fact you're an event coordinator for the Health Law Society and a member of the International Law Society did a patent law paper has absolutely nothing to do with what's an outstanding resume right now for the type of municipal type of work you do. So off. And then reclaiming the commons, open source patenting, the solution to seed monopoly. No, that's it. And then another one, magna cum laude. Great. No. Fraternity. People don't like fraternities on resumes, by the way. And there you go. So this is a much better resume. This resume is I don't know how that is. So maybe it's January 2020 to Pleasant. The date. This is a much better resume like this, because currently an agency attorney, because what it does is it work for elections, responsibilities included, and then just a few things. Because what this does is it's basically this, you don't have to talk a lot about yourself. You don't even talk about so this right now, it says you minored in public policy, you went to public affairs, you went to the school, then you did this, it was related to government relations, and you did this, which was related to that. And everything is the same set now. And so this is a good resume. This resume, by the way, is very marketable, but before, not so much. And then you can fix this by fixing all the stuff, getting rid of the contract attorney. Board of Elections under contract, I would say under contract between, if you want, but you don't need to go into a lot of detail. This is a strong resume. So that kind of fixes that. And that will help you quite a bit in terms of getting position. So let me just see here, posting a couple more resumes. I'm going to probably try to post up 3 or 4. There's a lot of them. And I hope this helps, because there's a lot of these resumes. It's just what's upsetting about this kind of exercise, which, I enjoy, but at the same time, I don't, because it's just that so many people have very good backgrounds, but then they just mess them up by doing their resumes improperly. And the way I look at all this is I see it as from a different standpoint than a lot of people. I see it more as what an employer is looking for. And the problem with most of these resumes is like the resume that we're looking at right now is that we just looked at. This resume is a very good resume. It's just, it just was, everything's buried in there. And you don't want to necessarily draw attention to things in your resume that can hurt you. You want to make sure your resume is really strong. Okay, so again, look at all these things with these different suggestions. I just want to make sure everyone sees these because they're these are basic grammar things. And so the point is to look at an attorney too in your resume is that if you're making basic grammar mistakes, then the perception is, or the message is that you probably can't do legal documents correctly. And so that's a problem. And then you can see here, let's see, you're over 3 years of experience handling various aspects of warehouse. So that would be handling. And so just what happens when an employer sees this is they know that they're going to get someone that's going to go there and make mistakes. And if you're making mistakes in your resume, then the idea is you're going to make mistakes in the documents you do. So that you always want to, this is part of being an attorney, is being like a master of details and so forth. And the best attorneys will write a resume, but then you might spend 5 times as long proofing it and shortening the language. And so you can see here just a certain thing here. So I made these corrections. And again, there's rules about spelling out words you can see. So it's like 1 to 10 needs to be spelled out, or 9. I don't know what it is, but so this probably, let's see what's going on here. Is this even an attorney or figure this out? Wow. What is this? All right. I'm not going to spend any time on this because this isn't an attorney. I apologize. All right. So unless I'm missing something. No, it's not an attorney. So this is an attorney meeting. So sorry, or law students too, but this is not an attorney. So I can't really do anything for this. I apologize if this is your resume and you waited to care, but it's only for attorneys. Sorry. All right. So this one, experience, project attorney, discovery, e-document review, multiple 100 law firm assignments. Okay, great. So this is an example. There's some good things about this right here. What I like about this resume, and person does e-discovery in document review. And there's a lot of very good firms or people that do this. And it's actually can be a very good practice area. Is they basically, they're talking about what they do. And so they're basically saying they've worked at all these law firms and they've done this. And this is what they've done. Now think this person has done this for 10 years. So there's some issues here with punctuation and so forth. But the point is that this is a good resume. It may not someone you can do very well is doing this as accept online suggestions at once. So let's see, case specific, you can see all these issues. But this person, you know exactly what you're getting. I don't know why it has to stop at 8/20/20. I would just say present because no one's following up no one's going to follow up and say, are you no longer a project attorney? But I would say something like this. And I think this is probably okay. I think it's probably okay leaving it like this. I don't know that you need to do these subject areas, but you can. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think that's probably okay. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to check one more. Okay, so back to this resume, which I'm enjoying. Okay, so this person, let's see, so they went to law school or business school in Trinidad. Okay, I don't really understand that. Education. Okay. I think that this is probably okay. Some of these things here, additional experience that they've worked at this, let's talk psychological wellness, probably isn't necessary to list on here. So I probably would not list that. I probably would just take this off. And with just this, you're welcome to put that on there. There's nothing wrong with putting that on there. But with just this, the resume's fine. You don't even need to put I almost would say this person, and again, I'm not going to get in too much detail, but I almost say you might not even want to put all this foreign education and so forth on there. You probably, and again, people are going to see you're admitted at the bar and you've been doing this for that long and you're probably going to be fine. And then let's talk psychological wellness. I almost would take that off just because it's not really related. And in this resume, just think about it from the standpoint of an employer. If somebody needs someone that does document review and does all this stuff. You're going to, and other issue spotting. It's going to be the first other thing after that. But so you can see here, okay. Well, and then this just looks like a good resume for someone to do the kind of work you're doing. And that's it. So you take off, again, anybody that's a foreign attorney, I just would recommend being very careful about, here's an interesting resume, about anything to do with foreign schools and so forth. Just be very careful with that. Okay, if you can, many times you can definitely get away with not listing them. Okay, so here's an attorney that graduated in 2016. Just let's be 5 years. So let's put all this stuff at the end, and then the bar admissions. You don't want to lead with that. This person's done a lot of very impressive things, but let's take their education and put it like we're supposed to at the end. We haven't just trying to figure out what's going on here. Okay, education at the end. Let's see, NYU, great school, just amazing. Don't put the jurisprudence and philosophy group. It's not going to help you. Researcher, an oralist, justice clinic, not going to help you. Here, this person started off at UCLA and they probably did exceptionally well. So I would list, in order to transfer, so I would list grade point and just ranking if you were really high at the end of your first year. And I would just say, and you don't have to say matriculated, you just have to say UCLA School of Law, and then moved, and then all this stuff's great, master's philosophy, and then BA in philosophy. That's fine. Okay, so let's go back up here. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have to fix here, it looks like. Okay, so this person is international legal consultant. I'm sure I understand what that means. Sorry, I'm just looking at this here. Okay, so engage in private and public international law, perform legal research for Indian-based law firm and international law, expropriation, naturalization for natural resources, foreign citizens. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. I want to think about that. And the reason I do is because I'm not sure that's helping you or how we can put that, or how we can fix that. Then we have legal intern for 4 months. And then we have staff attorney for 6 months. And then we have research assistant for 1 year. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, commercial, not commercial, and hybrid. Special tribute intern. So what year did this person graduate? 2016. Okay, so let's Asian American. Okay, so so that in this 2014, so that was the summer of the first year. Okay, so that's not really going to be, you don't need any information there. Being passively fluent in Hindu and Urdu. Okay, that's probably okay. Social tribute for the Lebanon, the Hague, Netherlands. Okay, that was during your summer. Okay, so this particular resume, let me just take a look here. And then I can tell you, is Lebanese spelled wrong? Tell me it's not spelled wrong. Lebanese, no. Okay, and then clerk for the highest court of South Africa. Okay, it's all right. Foreign Constitution of South Africa. This is when you graduated. Okay, 2016 for 1 year. Okay. So this resume, and I'm trying to offer advice here. Let me just see. And this is all stuff you would have done. So there's no reason for that. So what happens when don't say contempt, just say judge, because then that's going to, if you use words like contempt, that's going to, all this stuff is going to, so here and again, I'm going to give this person a lot of career advice in a moment, but these are big moves here. So from here, you went to, and this is one of the things a lot of times makes me a little bit angry about the educational system, because here, this person is obviously very smart and can get good grades and has a lot of very good experience. But then what's happened here is a lot of things they've done all these kind of jobs that aren't necessarily, that are related to international human rights and all this sort of thing, which is great. This resume is and I don't know what happened at this job, but that was a short-lived job. And then, because you're just all over the world, you're in Vancouver, then you're in London, then you're in the Netherlands. Let me just see here. But I want to give this person good advice. I think the issue you're going to, this particular resume is going to have, this experience here, by the way, is if between August of 2019 and November, you've just been working in contract jobs, that's okay. But it almost would be better to have a break of some sort. And then the problem in this resume is this person has never gotten started. So you've done kind of all these things, but they were in other countries where you weren't necessarily getting US based experience, and people aren't going to know necessarily what to do with this resume. It's 5 years after law school. Is it 5 years? Yeah, 4.5. And no, is it? Where's the education? About 6 years. And this person wants to do international laws. I almost recommend if international is what you want to do, you have to figure out someone or some position in the US that does international related work, or you have to go to a think tank or something. And I'll tell you, a lot of people that have these kind of interests don't necessarily end up practicing law. So there's nothing wrong with not practicing law but this resume almost reads more like, and again, I'm not trying to be rude here, but it almost reads more like someone that wants to do academia. It would probably be very well served in academia because you're very smart, and a good writer and interested in lots of different laws and things. And so it may not be that you want to go and work in the US. Other things like Asian Americans advancing justice, I don't know what that means, but you're or special tribunal for Lebanon. Constitutional. So all this stuff is related to social justice and or international justice and that sort of thing. And then legal services, New York City, I'm assuming that's helping the poor. And so these are not not everyone has to work. And this is something I'll say to everyone. Not everyone has the desire to work for private law firms and big, corporate clients. And so this particular resume is really more an example of someone that it has interests that probably aren't well served trying to work in law firms, and they're probably better off served or working in law firms, should be working in law firms that are advancing some sort of interest. The other thing I want to say to everyone is there's an article on BCG Search about ego and your career and stuff this week. And so I think a lot of times attorneys will go into the practice of law and then they'll expect that they need to do a certain type of work. So they'll believe that they need to work in a big law firm and make a lot of money. Or other times people will go to Yale Law School is a perfect example. They'll go to Yale Law School and think that they should be doing all this kind of stuff like this person's doing, which is very typical of Yale graduates. And then people that are Yale graduates often go into government and things like that. So this person is very talented, this resume, it's a very talented person, but they're going to have a difficult time if they try to work in law firms because their interests are completely opposite of what the law firm stands for. Law firms are businesses protecting big businesses for the most part, the most successful ones. And smaller law firms may work for individuals, but even the smaller law firms many times are motivated by money. So you have to find yourself, this goes for everyone on this call, you really have to put yourself in an environment where you're going to succeed based on your skills. So if it was me, I don't think I would be trying to work in law firms. That's just completely insane. This is not where this person's interested in. That would be like Kanye West trying to go to dental school. Why would you do that? Why would Kanye West go to dental school? His skills and interests are in music or I don't know what they are, but you have to be doing what you're interested in. This resume reads as someone that has been maybe looking in the wrong places or not getting interested. And then the other thing is this person, you also need to commit. So whatever you do, you need to commit. And so everyone finds their place and in good time. I think that there's a lot going on with that particular resume. All right. And I think that the person is extremely smart to major in philosophy and get a master's degree in philosophy. Wow. That's just freaking hardcore. And those are very hard programs to get into. And then to get NYU Law School and UCLA Law School, hardcore. But they need to find the right path. And everyone should. You should not work in a law firm if you don't want to. You should follow your heart and do what you're interested in. Okay. So Bachelor of Arts in History, pre-law. Okay. Pre-law is not a big thing. But you're welcome to put that on there. The pre-law degree is not, they don't offer that at Harvard or Stanford. I just would take it off. Work experience, Civil Court of Harris County. Okay. Since the 2024 graduate, Student Life Department. Okay. Again, no one needs this. So you don't need to put that on there. Seasonal phone banker for Troy. Nope. That's not a good idea. So I don't know if Troy Carter is a Democrat or Republican. Oh, okay. Democrat, field organizing intern. All this stuff is probably not going to help you that much. English is a second language, volunteer, partnership with Loyola, partnership, political affairs intern, the Borgen Project. Okay. So you have all this political stuff on here. And then also this thing, the summer legal intern with American Immense Legal Funds, that's also political. So I just would be very careful about that. I think that there's nothing wrong, especially if you're applying for jobs in San Francisco, for example, the odds of you applying to someone who's not a Democrat and doesn't share your interests is pretty freaking slim. But at the same time, Republicans, Democrats, all this political stuff is probably not the greatest thing to, even though you like it and it represents your interests, it may not, it's probably better to try to lead it off. And so this is what a lot of modern resumes do. You can see a lot of experience, a lot of resumes we've seen so far have been from people that are older and they're not doing this stuff. And again, it's just because of the nature of our times, but you need to be careful about this sort of stuff. So this is, again, having been an intern for 4 months is probably not that big of a deal. All of these organizations, this is an affinity organization, this is an affinity organization, this is an affinity organization. So the problem with this stuff is that you don't want to look like, and I'm hesitating to be careful, but law firms are businesses, and so there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. You should be members of groups and things, but if you list all this information on your resume, it's I would recommend if you had Federalist Society taken it off, or if you had, you just need to be careful with it. So Health Law Society is probably not the greatest idea either, because Health Law Society, again, is going to put people on one path and is going to make people think that you're interested in doing that. Now, if you are interested in doing that and applying for those sorts of things, that's probably a good idea, but I would take that off. I would also probably take this off as well. I would just say Bachelor of Arts in History. And then I would just say this Juris Doctorate. So this is all fine, but you can see here, once you shorten this resume, and again, I'm trying to be careful here. Once you shorten this resume and kind of put the most important things here, then you have all this affinity stuff takes up more than half the resume. And just being a member of those groups may be fine, but is that really what you want to lead with? And so I would be careful. If that's how you want your resume to read, that's up to you. It's not going to hurt you because there's a dearth of African-American attorneys, for example. And again, I've written a book about it, the only book about it. And there's, problems at law firms all over the country, especially in areas like Tennessee, have getting clients even because they don't have enough, they don't represent the way that the country is in terms of the population. And so these are good things and there's nothing wrong with them. But the resume that I gave you earlier had all this Democrat affinity organization, let's get out the vote, all this sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with you having those desires and beliefs. But you also have to remember that you're trying to get a job in a law firm, which is and I don't know, is this an achievement? I guess it might be. But you're trying to get a job in a law firm that is conservative. It doesn't want people that will rock the boat. So you just need to be very careful about anything to do with political affiliations and so forth on a resume. And I'm not going to tell you to take something off or to not take something off on your resume, but I think it's you want to basically rise and so forth on your merits. And other than that, if you do this stuff, I think it's a great resume and I like it. I think it will get jobs. And I think you've done this summer and you've done this other experience. And so that's very good. And this is nice too, because it shows you have a lot of employment stability and very few people do. So that's very good. So someone who sees this will know that you are likely to stay a long period of time someplace. And yeah, but again, I've told a lot of people on this call so far to be very careful. This is another foreign resume. I think that I'm going to skip this one just because we've done several of them so far and the issues tend to be all the same in foreign resumes. So I would just, and again, just spelling counseled, you can see it spelled incorrectly and just giving people the sense of that this is the type of person I am and so forth. And I just wanted to show you one thing here. I want to do this. And again, I'm not picking on anyone. Let me just say, actually, I don't have it anymore. But anytime a resume goes into a lot of detail and it looks like it's one thing, then people reach conclusions about it. So someone that is an Asian Americans advancing justice, and then, which is fine. And then special tribunal, and then South Africa. So they're fighting for, I don't know what you're doing there. No, I don't know what you're doing there. But these are all things that are related to helping the poor, or helping underrepresented groups and all these things. So it's not, those are interests that lie outside of what a law firm wants. A law firm needs someone that's going to come there and work and that has an interest in that. And so this resume would be a lot stronger if this person had been taking all sorts of courses to become a better attorney of some sort, but they're just interested in this issue because that's who they are. And then this person has done a lot of democratic work and so forth, and that's fine too. But you just have to be very careful and aware that if that's the message you want to send, law firms are looking for people to do the work. They're not looking for people that necessarily have other skills. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Education, Texas A&M, University School of Law, Fort Worth, Texas. Actually, a very nice campus. I like that campus. Okay, Board of Advocates, Appellate Advocacy Chairman, Preeminent Advocate Award. Look at all these awards. Okay, so this is interesting. Again, keep in mind the 5-year rule. So we'll take this education, put it down at the bottom. What the hell's going on? Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this resume too, because I like this resume. There's some things I want to do with it. Shit. Okay. This is actually this is a very good resume. We're going to talk about a little bit about it. One thing, a lot of people are very excited to list everything that they've done. And they look at their, resumes as a really good kind of opportunity to talk about everything that they've done. And like certified Scrum Master, look at all this stuff. Okay. All right. This particular resume, this person has been at the same firm since 2020. They graduated from law school in 2016. So what were they doing before then? What am I missing here? It doesn't look like I have. I may have, but I don't think I have. All right. Assuming I have or haven't. Okay. Let me not worry about that. Okay. So if you look at this resume, this person says they've been there since maybe they changed the date, I don't know, but who knows? But this resume, let's just say if there is some sort of gap here in the resume, I actually like that. I like if the person sometimes people have children or they start later, who knows, but I doubt that's the only job this person's had. So maybe but anyway, let's say this is just from, what's their graduation date? 2016. Okay. So it's 2016. Let's just say it's 2016. So this is fine. So this actually would be a very good resume. And if it was since 2016, let's just say this person is very marketable. Commercial litigation. Okay. So this is a commercial litigator and they're talking about the type of work they do. And this is really, pretty much the same type of work. So this is actually assuming it's breach of contract, fraud, conspiracy, insurance, bad faith. Okay. So the problem with this resume is there's too much going on and it's too long and the person's talking too much about all their experience and everything that they've done. They've kept a long list of the different types of cases they've done. And again, this is a pretty bad mistake, 8 figures. And so it needs to be proved. But the big issue here is that there's too much. It's basically this person's a commercial litigation associate and they do all this different types of work. So that's fine. But these are just things that all attorneys do: initial client meetings and consultations. They all develop litigation strategies. So this person's a litigation associate for the most part. And there's really, in assisting in a settlement of a 6-figure settlement is, again, there's attorneys your age that have probably done 10-figure settlement or 8 figures. So you just need or 9 figures. You want to be careful listing all this. Now, there is a solution to what we're talking about here and how you would do this. But what you would want to do is this particular resume, there's something you can do in a resume called and this is a good idea for corporate attorneys and for litigators. You can do a transaction sheet or representative matters. And so representative matters, you could list the different types of cases. You could say biochemical producers suing, blah, 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 and then what you did, and then drafted the summary judgment motion to list those. And that's really a better way to do it, but that's an attachment. And people love those attachments. So if the attachment is good, you can do that. And the transaction sheets, corporate attorneys. So there's a bunch of information on BCG about doing those, but corporate attorneys and even patent attorneys do them, or sample patents, and people love those. And so and what this person has done here, and by the way, actually, this person is an excellent attorney. They're very interested in what they do. And who wouldn't want to hire this person to be a litigator? Because they obviously are very enthusiastic. They recommend, they recall everything that they've done. This is a good attorney, by the way. And I can tell it based on these bullet points. But I think if it was me, I would probably want to put a lot of this in a transaction sheet that goes at the end. It's interesting, it's good, and there's a lot of information, but I would break it up based on the types of cases you worked on and so forth, because you look very enthusiastic about the work you're doing, and I like it. But at the same time, sometimes saying less is more, because people don't want to read a lot. if you're a law firm in Houston, Texas, and I don't even know if there's a real firm, if that is your firm or not. The law firm's just going to look up this person online and they're going to see them and they'll be familiar with the type of work that they do and they'll look up the firm and the kind of work the firm does and that'll tell them basically the type of associate you are and the fact you've been there so long, for 5 years, would be good. So that's all they need. They don't need all this information. And a lot of times what you're doing is you're doing like basically a trucking accident and you're selling yourself short because then you've also done a lot of very successful other things. So that's how I would do it with that. But this is good. And anytime, by the way, one of the reasons I talk to people about not switching jobs a lot is because anybody that's been at a firm like this for 6 years and has gotten all this experience, what that means compared to a lot of these other resumes. And you can see here, I just want to look at that. This one's fine, but this one, like this person's just moving around. There's nothing, you don't know what you're getting. And that's the problem. You do know what you're getting. What you're getting is someone very interested in international law and justice and probably not going to find that in the law firm. And when we did this, you're getting a project, you're getting someone that does project attorney, discovery document review, could do all this. And they're proud of it. They went to the graduate bar. That's all they do. Great. That's fine. And you know what you're getting. So the point is with all these resumes, you need to know what you're getting. And with this person, what's so good about this is we talked earlier about the idea of, can you do the job? Can you do it? You do job. Do you do the job long term? Can you be managed? I don't know. Do you want the job? Is another one. So let's just real briefly, if you had and let me just see if I can pull up a couple other ones of these resumes, just give me 1 second. But if you had a resume, if you had this person, you can answer all these questions. This person can do the job. They're likely to do it long term. They can be managed, that they probably are liked where they're at, and they probably are going to want the job. They want to do it. If you look at this resume, these resumes, you don't know if this person can do the job and what the hell's going on here. And this is the resume from overseas. This resume, when you ask these questions, the problem with this resume before, when it had all this stuff about politics and so forth, is, can you do the job? No, because they're a law student. Will you do the job long term? All this person's interests seem to be in politics and so forth. So maybe not. Can you be managed? I don't know. They're putting down the members of getting out the vote and all this stuff. So maybe, I don't know. Do we like you? Yes, they probably would like this person and want them to hire them. And do you want the job? Probably, but you don't know. And then this person, same thing. If you look at this person, can you do the job if you're a law firm? Who knows? And you have no background experience. Will you do the job long term? You probably don't know the answer to that either. But the answer is probably hell no, because they've never stayed very long anywhere. I mean, the only job that was a real legal job was they were only there for a few months. Do we like you? Yes, if you like foreign affairs and philosophers, and yes. But then do you want the job? Probably not. So those are questions that people are asking when they're looking at your resume. You just need to be very aware of that and make sure that whatever you do, those answers are coming across as positive in that respect. And then let's just talk about this. National Order of the Bears. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Board of Advocates is. I don't know what an appellate advocacy chairman is. But I do know that a lot of the stuff, I don't know what preeminent, but a lot of the stuff actually is very good. It's all related to being a litigator. And this person definitely, these particular things, because all this leads to the scent of what this person's doing, should be doing it. And this is a person that should be an attorney. This person is exactly where they should be. And you can see that hopefully by what this resume is saying. So if I was an attorney, if this person applied to work with me, I would certainly work with them. And if I was a law firm, I would certainly hire them. You'd be crazy not to. Okay. Very good resume. Okay, so let's go to the next one. California Provisional Licensed Attorney. I don't even know what that means, but that's fine. Maybe that means the person took the bar exam. So they put their education, maybe they're waiting for I don't know. It doesn't matter. All right, civil litigation concentration. No, you don't need to put that. That's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a concentration. There may be, but people that go to law school, you don't say that. Hasten Constitutional Law Journal, that's fine. Legal, that's fine. Competitor, no. Employment Law Clinic, no. Animal Defense, no. Stephen Cohen, Scholarship for Public Interest Writing, no. I would just maybe say scholarship if you want to say that, that's fine. But then people are going to ask about your grades. And if you're really, but I would just be careful with that. These are fine. If this is a paid position, you can live in under other things. UCLA, anthropology. Okay, that's fine. You can list that if you want. Okay, publications. Oh, I like that. That's actually very good. Again, just remember when you're writing these things, you have to be very careful about showing interest in things that have nothing to do. That's just not a right thing here with what the job you're trying to get. Let me see here. I'm going to paste this down here. Okay, let's see what's going on with this resume here. So University of California, supervising editor, okay, experience, succession legal, litigation associate. Okay, sure. I don't know what provisionally licensed litigation associate is, but I would just write litigation associate. I don't think you need to get into too much. I don't know that I would put the trademark of succession legal there. I don't think you need that. And then I would just put, and then there's no such thing as approximately 62. It's either that it's 62. Trained two paralegals, that's probably not necessary. And I would just say, you probably want to write probate litigation associate. If that's what you're doing. It sounds like that's what you're doing. And again, just remember advancing cases towards settlement, appearing at hearings and so forth is probably not that necessary. This is probably all you need. Probate litigation associate. Okay, PK Shriver, personal injury defense, insurance coverage. So that's a different practice area. So you have to, this particular resume, this is a big decision that people make when they're working on their resumes. This, again, just put associate. I don't know what this provisional litigation law clerk associate, I would just put law clerk associate, whatever, but I don't know what all this stuff is here related to, but if you're a litigation associate, then you need to just write litigation associate. That's what I would recommend. And you don't need to list all these different motions and things that you're working on. So that if you just do this, it's okay. Now, I don't know what this provisionally licensed and everything means. It may mean that you're, I don't know, maybe it means you didn't pass the bar, maybe it means you passed the bar and they're waiting for a character check. I have no idea. I don't really care. But the point is that you need to probably just be careful about that. And I would just put a line maybe at the end of everything about that. So this from the fall of 18, what year did you graduate? Okay, so I would probably remove, I guess it's okay if you were getting litigation law clerk during that time, from the fall of 2018 to the spring of 2018. The problem with the stuff about that you just need to be careful with is I would just say, wow, let's see, that it makes you look like you're more interested in animals than practicing law. So you just need to be careful with that. This Miller Law Firm stuff makes it look a little bit like you're, let's see, federal law clerk. No, you don't need to say that. All this is published 10 articles in environmental clean. All these practice areas and things, all this stuff is detracting from what you do. And so these sort of law clerk jobs probably don't add a lot. If you were summer, it was just summer 2018 is probably okay. You don't need to see summer litigation. You would just say summer law clerk. And then I would just probably put again, this, and then this is probably okay. This is all litigation and then publications. That's fine. Animal anti-cruelty. So I see why you're interested in the animal stuff. And then just maybe something with other experience. Okay, so this is much better. And then you have to decide in terms of what you're doing as a litigation law clerk to these positions. If you're applying for jobs doing probate litigation, then you would apply talking about your probate litigation. But just being a litigation associate is fine. This resume, by the way, is great. There's nothing wrong with it now. It's perfectly fine. And this is really all you need to say. If people ask you what you've done, you can say, I've done this and this, but you don't need to go into a lot of detail. The detail can help you or hurt you. You just need to, because what you're doing when you put in things about the fact that all you're doing now is probate litigation, then people think of you as a probate litigator. So that's the only type of job you're going to really look at. People are going to like you for. If they think of you as I don't know, there's a different type of litigation you're doing here, then they think of you that. But here you just, and I wouldn't say summer for justice. I would just say 1L summer clerkship. Again, attorneys get animal defense. That's fine. This is nice. Everything's good. So I would just be very careful about how you list all this stuff and do it that way. So the big point for everyone in this call, and it's something that I started with this morning when we started this, is you just need to be very careful about what you're doing. Once you put something like probate in here, or you put a different type of thing in here, you put people on a whole different scent. And so that different scent means that people will start thinking of you as a different type of attorney and won't hire you because of that. And so you just need to be careful. So again, to answer these questions that we talked about earlier, and I just want to go back to them because they are important, is if I had a litigation opening, if you had a litigation opening, then you looked at this resume now and you said, can this person do the job? And there it is. The answer would be yes. They can, as a litigator, they can do the job. Will they do the job long term? Maybe not, but they look like they want to do litigation. Can they be managed? Probably. All these sorts of things. So do you want the job? If it's litigation, they probably do want it. Now, if it was an environmental job or some other practice area job, you'd have to ask, would the person be a good fit for it? But they have these other sorts of things here. So that's that. So let me go to some other resumes here. Second, let's find some more here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm trying to find one I haven't done. Oh, I see. Okay, here we go. So here's another one. I'll cut a bunch of them here for you guys and go through them. I'm just cutting some resumes here. Okay, let me just take these ones here and I'm going to cut and paste them. 1 second. Stop share. Put some new ones here. Yep. Sorry, give me 1 second here. I'm just cutting and pasting some more resumes. There we go. Got one I'd already done by mistake. Just give me 1 second. Amex doesn't matter. For some reason, I resumes that we'd already looked at, so I'm trying to fix those. I think I fixed it. Let me see. Okay, maybe not. 1 second. Sorry, I'm just going through all these resumes here. We've done quite a few, which is good. I think we're almost through. All right, here's a good one. And then I will take a break and not a break, but I will try to answer some questions after maybe another 15 minutes if people have questions, and then we'll go back and finish the rest of the resumes. Okay, so this resume, is this what we've done? No. Okay, so this resume, Old Miss, doctorate. Okay, so some of the things, when you see this stuff, like these organizations and so forth, I don't always know what they mean. The Trial Advocacy Board, Law Association for Women, I don't know what that is. I don't know what the Moot Court Transitional Law Clinic is. Again, and that may be something you want to list on there when you can. Being part of a law fraternity, I don't know if that's going to help you. I don't know what the President's Dean's Leadership Council is. That may be like the hardest award to get in the law school. I don't know. But if it is, many times you may want to list that, not list it, or list why it's a really special honor that you have. But you recommend being careful. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of activities on your resume, but at the same time, it can detract from the overall message. And so I think it's often important to be careful with that because it can detract from the overall message. And I think these are fine if you want to list these things, but at the same time, I don't know that it's the best idea. I just want to try something here real quickly. My computer's a little slow because of other things that are on here on this other resume. So I want to try to get them off there. Second. Oh, maybe not. Sorry, give me 1 second. When I was enjoying that resume, let me see. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm trying to clean up some resumes here because it's slowing down the computer. Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Then we're back at the old message journey. Maybe not. Okay, let me see. Just give me 1 second. Again, I apologize. Just a lot of resumes on here. Okay, I may have to go back and do the resume that I just did again, but give me 1 second. Sorry. Let me just find that resume. Okay, the person whose resume I was just doing, unfortunately, I misplaced it. So I'll fix that right now. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is this resume right here we were talking about. I hope you guys can see it. Let me make sure I'm doing it again. I'm just going to share it this way. Okay, so this particular resume, what I was seeing here is a lot of these activities, but you sometimes want to be a little bit careful with them if they're not adding too much to everything. These are okay. It shows you were, doing something during law school, but at the same time, I don't know that it's always necessary to put all the stuff on here. Now, in terms of the grade point average, this is another big one with resumes. I don't know if that's an average grade point average or a really good grade point average at Ole Miss, but at the same time, typically you only want to draw attention to your grades unless they're really outstanding. A B plus is very good in some law schools and others is not. So I would be very careful about that. I would also be very careful about listing most of these organizations. If you want to do that's up to you, but a lot of these don't necessarily add a lot because just being a student and attorney at the Moot Law and Transactional Law Clinic may not get you much. Everyone has to start somewhere, but it's not necessarily leading very far. Okay, so this stuff looks good. Again, the GPA 3.7 is probably pretty good everywhere. So I like that. I don't know that you need the minor. Sometimes you can just write Bachelor of Science. Sometimes I don't know why people list their minors and majors, but you can certainly list your minor if you want. The business administration, again, that's not the kind of thing they have at a lot of schools. You're welcome to list it. I'm assuming that the honors college is good. I don't know if it's an activity or if it's something that you qualified for. And then this is also good. Okay, so this person graduates in 22. They were a law clerk for 4 months, and that looks good. I like that. I think if that's since you're a 2022 graduate, if that's the only experience you have, that looks pretty good. And then this was a summer internship and watch the spelling. I don't know if brochure is a good idea to list as your this. I don't know what AIR's property project internship is. So I would be very careful about that. So this looks almost, I don't know what this is, but you can just put an internship there. It's not anything that's that. And then Cabio and election property internship. That's fine. That's good. Now, what's going on here that I want to be, that I'm a little concerned about? So you're a 2022 graduate. So there's nothing really, all this stuff up here is fine. But down here, you start talking about landlord tenant, probate, and then family law, all these different things. So I almost would just recommend just saying you're a law clerk and then worked on whatever. And then this particular thing, same thing, because you just need to be careful about different practice areas. So here you're doing litigation, here you're doing corporate, here you're doing litigation. So many times you just want to be, I don't know what this is. You want to be just very careful about giving people too many different sets. So you have litigation, corporate transactional work, and now you have trust in estates, and now you have IP. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with people getting experience in different practice areas, especially while you're a law student. And then this is criminal law. So criminal, and then you have trademark, which is essentially what this is. Trademark, trust in estates, which is awesome. Jesus, I wish I had this much experience when I was a law student. So this is really good experience in a lot of different things, corporate and litigation. So this is just a lot of different types of experience. At some point, people are going to wonder, what is it you want to do? This is a lot of good experience you've gotten so far. The problem with this, and now here, what is this? Pandemic assistance. My God, employment. So you have all these different stuff here. So you just need to be very careful. This resume, by the way, will get jobs. So it's a good resume. There's nothing wrong with it. At the same point, you're going to have to decide what kind of practice area you want to go into. And you need to do so fairly quickly. You need to pick a team. And sometimes the team is where you get a job, but this particular resume, shorten it up and almost not saying very much about some of these jobs would probably be a better idea than saying a lot, to be honest with you. And I don't even know if the University of Michigan Transactional Clinic, unless you want to do corporate law, is a good idea to list. But you can make this one page and other than that, looks pretty good. Okay, let's see this particular person. Summary. Purpose-driven attorney with a high capacity for problem solving. That's good. This is 5 years of in-house plans. Okay, so again, all these sorts of things are things that are written many times by resume companies. And so I always just recommend, to the extent you can, not having them. Again, profession in Westlaw is something that, law students are, and facilitating relationships among stakeholders is something that lots of people do. You need to be careful about that. You shouldn't be leading with that. Oh, by the way, we've done this resume, so I don't need to talk about it. Great. Okay. I don't know what happened there. Let me see here. This one, we talked about this one. We talked about this one. Okay. I think I know what's wrong here. Okay, let's see here. What of this one? City law. Okay, let's go to this one here. Atomic law of the trust. We did this one. It's difficult going between these different pages. Okay, this is actually one we haven't done, I'm sure. So let's see here. Education. This looks like a good one, actually. I'm excited to look at this one. Here we go. This is a good attorney. Good. This is going to be fun. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking through this to make sure I get it from the start. Okay, let's see here. This is okay. Education languages. Assuming this is the beginning of it. Give me 1 second. Profile. Aspiring litigator. Okay, here we go. Licenses. State of Florida, bar number, U.S. patent trademark. Okay. So this stuff, by the way, the licenses and so forth always go at the end. So you want to put those at the end. So I would work on putting all those licenses of yours and so forth, the state of Florida and bar number and so forth, put those at the end of your resume. And being admitted to the patent bar is actually a really good thing. If we fix up this resume, you shouldn't have too much problem getting a position, but that goes at the end. So let's put that at the end. It's the same resume now. No, it's not. Okay, good. Okay, so it goes to the end. Okay, and then let's get into the meat of this thing. Okay, so again, all this stuff doesn't belong there. So this, and I apologize for resume companies. I don't do this with a resume, but for doing this, you don't need to tell people what's already on the resume. You don't need to tell people that it's a tier 1 intellectual property firm or patent intern. You don't need to tell people all this stuff. So people need to really start removing all this stuff off their resumes. And it's unfortunate that people do it. Education goes at the end, which I'll look at it first. And this is a good resume. Everything an employer needs is on here. So we'll talk about how to fix all this. And this person is very few years out of law school. That's fine. Okay. So I don't know that the fact that you were in this international low court law competition is that big of a deal. You don't need to have an academic reference. Obviously, if you went to University of Indiana, it's a well-respected law school. You probably don't need that. If you did a patent clinic and so forth. I like this stuff because it puts people on the side of things, but it's not in the moot court. If you want to be a litigator, it puts people on the side of things. I wouldn't recommend putting dean's list 3 semesters, because then what happened the semesters you weren't on the dean list? That's the way people are thinking. I like this resume because you didn't take a lot of time off between law school. Most attorneys that come out of that are patent attorneys have issues with they tend to take a lot of time off. So this isn't very much time off between law school and graduating or doing other things. There's an article I've written called Why Law Firms Have No Idea How to Hire Patent Attorneys. IP attorneys, something like that. Or I don't know, but it's on BCG. I would read that because it'll probably be fun for you to see some of the things that law firms don't necessarily do wrong. Now, these internships and patent counsels and so forth, I would almost try to put these in other things. And then as a patent law clerk, while starting time, I could guess you can put that on there. That's impressive, but at the same time, it's probably not necessary. Most of the stuff, if this is experience, you can put that under your experience. Languages are fine, but languages again go at the end. So that's fine too. And the big deal with this resume, by the way, is that you've done work and that you have a patent, that you have an electrical engineering background. Now, something to understand about patent attorneys, and this is just all patent attorneys, so there's nothing particularly wrong or one way or another about this. But most patent attorneys, and this looks like this may have been what happened to you. So most patent attorneys come out of law school and it's difficult for them to find jobs with large law firms that pay a lot of money. The reason is because their grades are often not as good because they are working full time. And that can cause a lot of issues. Sometimes in your case, you may want to be a litigator and maybe getting only patent things. I don't know, but you're going to have to figure out what to do. So this is a 5-month patent internship during law school. Yes, during the law school. And then this is a 2-year thing also during law school. So again, the question, and then this is during law school as well. Oh wait, this is during law school. Wow. Okay. And then, okay, I wouldn't put all this information on here. This goes more in a transaction sheet or something. And yeah, and I would try to shorten this up. And then I would, leading with this internship is probably, since this internship ended when then this ended, you could almost just say other experience or something along those lines, and then put that in other experience. I don't know, but it's a 5-month job. I guess it's a real job. So I don't know, but this is a law clerk with a big firm. So the question here that I'm sure you've come across is, this was 3 years ago now. What happened? Why aren't you back at that firm? What's going on? This is the kind of questions that law firms are going to have. So you're going to have to come up with some sort of explanation about that. And you're attaching professional references and so forth, which seems to be a sign that maybe there were some issues or something. I don't know. Again, I'm just guessing, but this is having been through this a lot of times with firms, patent attorneys and firms, by the way, patent attorneys, more than any practice area out there, out of all the different practice areas, tend to have lots of issues with employers. And so sometimes there's almost like a blackballing, or I don't know what occurs there, but it's just weird. It happens in lots of lots of attorneys. And it's just very common for patent attorneys to have that and then to have breaks in the resume like this. It's because they're scientists and they don't necessarily understand the laws of law firms. And it's not to attack you or anything like that. It's just how it works. It's everyone. It's very it happens all the time. So I would do something like this almost. I would just say experience and then other experience but you're going to need to explain what's been going on for the past couple of years. And those explanations, many times, again, you don't need all the stuff. Then you don't need these recommendations. You just basically can say you're a design engineer, this and this. Your explanation for not working could be something as simple as maybe you were working on your own patent that you thought was interesting, or maybe who knows? I don't know. But this is a much stronger resume if you just do this or something along those lines. Just shorten it up. And this says everything, and no one needs to have a lot of information about it. You can have another sheet, but this is really what your experience is, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with any of this. But these are shortening it up like this is going to make things a lot better. And then you could have a transaction sheet that talks about the patents you've worked on or sample patents or something, and then work on that. But that's how I would, recommend doing it. And then this resume, by the way, is much, much better than what was there before. And then you have patent, bar exam, and so forth. And then the extra material. The biggest problem with these resumes a lot of times is people don't know what to make of them, because there's so much going on. So here this is everything you need. And I almost would recommend taking all this stuff off. I don't think that this person should be a litigator, by the way. I think that your experiences in patent, I think you should get a patent job. I think you can get a job with a small firm and then work into a bigger firm. That's what most patent attorneys end up doing anyway. So I don't think you have to really worry about anything. If you haven't been working for 3 years, you can say you're working on a patent, or you're doing, who knows? I don't know what you've been doing, but maybe you got sick. All sorts of things could happen. But this is a great background to be a patent attorney. Someone is going to hire you, and maybe you had to learn some lessons from this firm. If it wasn't this firm, maybe you just made up the firm, but whatever. I'm saying you might have worked at another firm and not be telling me the real firm for identity, which is fine. But you have to make things simple. Everyone knows what all these things mean. And then people will ask questions. And then you can say, worked on electromechanical patents. And then IP and patent, this is almost, I don't know, but these are real jobs that you did. And this was a real job. And these are real jobs. Now, I am noticing, just to play devil's advocate here, this was a 2-year job. This was a 1-year job. And then this was a 2-year job. So you don't have long periods of employment anywhere. And that may be a function of not liking authority, or maybe a function of, I don't know, it could be all sorts of things. It could maybe your English, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. But whatever those issues are, you want to think, again, remember the idea of, can you do the job, but will you do the job long term, is something that employers are concerned with. And the big thing is that I would say to everyone on this call is that whoever you want to be or become, if you really want to work in the legal industry and you're not working there, you just need to learn. You need to expose yourself to stuff like this, which if I was listening to me talk right now, and I wouldn't be happy if it was my resume all the time, but you have to be very careful about, you can become anybody you want to become. You just need to learn what it takes to do that, to be that sort of person. That's all. But this is a good resume. This person should get multiple jobs, lots of jobs, even with 3 years of not working. But you just need to remove all this stuff off that's going on. And it's not that it's the resume needs to be fixed, but it's also the way your mind works many times when you're thinking about the legal market and jobs, that can actually hurt you a lot. So you need to be very careful about how you're thinking about the legal market, and fix if there's something about yourself that's holding you back, which is perfectly fine, because everybody has that, then do whatever you can to fix it. Okay, this is a good resume. So we'll talk about this one. Okay, so I have a decade of experience as a patent attorney with MS and EE. Great. Okay, so what's on here? All the stuff all those stuff we're reading here. I'm over 12 years of experience with counseling several businesses, small and large, multiple areas. I actually like this, what's written here. I like it. This is more of like a cover letter, though. This is an awesome cover letter. It shouldn't go on the front, but this is an awesome cover letter right there. A great cover letter. That's why. And then, yeah, a great, awesome cover letter, but does not belong in this. Okay. The representative technical experience, I would put this now from the person whose resume I just reviewed before. I want to show them something. Look at this person is actually has their own practice. So they're their own patent attorney. And so that's something any patent attorney can do many times, which is just interesting to think about. If you're a patent attorney and you know how to do patents, many times you can just open your own practice. But I like this technical experience. I would recommend putting this probably, this would be an extra other page, not at the top of your resume. And then here's your experience. And if you're on your own, that's fine. But this is, again, this resume is the only thing that's not employable about this person is that they're working as a solo practitioner, but they probably have business. Wow, Fortune 100 companies. If this is your own firm, then you're in great shape. Comprehensive intellectual property. Okay. Okay. But you're not just a patent attorney, you're also a litigation. Anyway, this is, even though there's a lot of information given here, I actually like this because there's a lot of things. If you're a solo practitioner, it's showing a lot of expertise and ability to attract the clients. If you're not a solo practitioner, I still think this is probably okay. So I don't really mind what's done there. And then the patent attorney, corporate legal counsel with this research group, great as well. But I would significantly, meaning significantly, what you risk here is you did this for 7 years and then you have all this just huge amounts of experience that you're listing. And then you've been doing this for 12 years and you have very little stuff you're listing. So you want to probably list the same amount here as you do there, if not more. And yeah, in this section, because what it sounds like is that you were doing a lot of work here, then you opened your own practice and you haven't really been doing as much work, which may not be the case, but that's what someone would take away from this. And that maybe you're a little rusty after all that time, which I know is not true, but at the same time, you need to be very careful with that. Okay, but this, yeah, and this stuff played a key role. No one's going to read all this, so just think about it. You just need to be careful. So I just think I'm not going to tell you what to do here, but I would recommend probably just taking most of the stuff out. DocuTrack Engineering Co-op 2001. I don't even know what that means, but again, I don't know what your title was, but I would just or tutor. No, oh, that's cool. I don't know where you go. Oh, this is the nuclear engineer, another nuclear engineer. That's great. Yes, you can see how these nuclear engineers really do well. It's a really good job to have. Jimmy Carter did it. Okay. So this is all good. So this is a good resume. It's a great resume. There's nothing that this resume really needs other than I've done. And these publications are fine too. And yeah, so this is what I would do. This is a cover letter. Goes in an extra page. This is a cover letter. Then your experience should be shortened. And then I don't know what DocuTrack is, but frankly, all this stuff here, I just would put it under other experience. I don't think it's really relevant to what you're doing now. And it just detracts everything, the users from that. And then you graduated from law school in 2005. Nothing wrong with going back to school and getting these other degrees, but this just needs to be better organized, in my opinion. Okay, let's go back to the next resume here. Let's see what we got here. General attorney, persuasive litigator, offering. So these are things again is this the same resume? Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about these resumes, and again, I told the story early on of my mother going to resume coaches and things I'm not saying this was done by a resume coach, or a resume writer, or maybe done with a book, but these are things that you don't necessarily need on there and that are detract. This stuff is good to know that you do that, but I don't think everyone can understand by your resume that you do these things. So let's take that off. Okay. And then professional experience. So you just go experience, or just say experience and you say professional. Okay. And by the way, this is a great resume. The reason it's a great resume is that whatever job that this person's applying for, assuming that this is what they want to do, this person can be managed. Can you be managed? There's one question. Will you do the job long term? So want the job and you do the job, all these sorts of things. So these questions, if you were asking this particular person, and there's other ones, do we like you and so forth, but this particular person, in terms of what they're doing, defense against unlawful acts and child negligence. That they're working for children, basically. This is a very good attorney. This would be a very good risk for a family law attorney to hire, for a family law attorney to anything related to that, representing in family court and all that sort of thing. So this is actually a great resume. This person does not need to do anything to the resume, really. And I think normally I would say, let's shorten this thing up and let's get to the attention. But all this stuff is really relevant to, it's been a long career of 20 plus years. And this person has a lot of employment stability, has done the same thing. This is a very good risk for a family law attorney to hire or anybody, because this person is likely to stay, assuming that they can integrate into a private employer. But this is a good resume. Again, all these things, law and fact, not face, all these things, once this thing is proofed and so forth, this is a great resume. And again, because it shows employment stability, it's all on one topic. The person's doing one sort of thing. The education, I would just put education is fine. They're perfect. There's nothing wrong with this person. This is a great resume. And this person, again, well, they graduated in 2001. They have a long career ahead of them. It's a great resume. I just take that stuff off the top. And then I would just beef this up, and there will be lots of employers. You can see in court, with the court, this capitalizations, workflow, just different types of errors and stuff, pleadings, briefs, and motions. So just make sure, just even from a professional standpoint, that all this stuff is proofread carefully. But yeah, this is a good resume. I like this resume. Our admission, NAACP is fine. All this stuff is fine. I don't know that being a member of the Alpha Phi fraternity is really that big of a deal or something you want to list on there. It seems like a lot of people do. And maybe that can help get jobs. I wasn't even aware that when I was in law school it existed, and it may be a good thing. But this is a good resume. I like it. And I like the employment stability and the fact that this person was able to stick with that job for a long period of time, and which is great. Okay, I have a couple more resumes here. I'm gonna open a new page, and I haven't gotten to your resume yet. I apologize. I know these meetings always take a long time to get through resumes, but I try to give good feedback to everyone. Hopefully we are going to get through them. I do a hard stop for an hour or so, but okay, good. I've got the rest of them copied. Okay, let me just share. Give me 1 second. By the way, just the stuff you guys are learning in this, this puts you way ahead of other attorneys out there, because most people never learn this stuff, and it ends up harming them their whole career. So it's a lot of good stuff. Okay, founder, I'm sure maybe law office is an X person. Okay, so this is let's see. So you can see all these errors on here just in terms of grammar and stuff. So always make sure you fix those. I fixed them real quickly. The licenses and stuff, that all goes at the end. So don't forget about that. And this is how the person has a lot of licenses and so forth. And let me just see. So you want to put all that law firm of John. You're changing already. I'm just trying to be careful. Okay, so all these licenses, published works. Wow, look at this. These publications, licenses, all stuff belong at the end. But this is great. Wow. Okay, I'm going to figure out what to do with this. Just give me 1 second. Okay, this is a very good attorney. So there's nothing really, let me just see here. So your licenses are fine. Please put those at the end. Let me just do this for you real quick here. Education goes at the end. I don't know what your college is, but I'm not going to worry about that. But all this is very good. And then I don't know where the dates are for all this stuff. So let me just see if I can find that. But just so everyone understands like why this is a good resume, let me see here. Bar West, tenant laws, seminars and teaching. Jeez. This person has a lot of interest in this particular practice area. Let me just see here. Research writing. I'm just going to look at this. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this resume. This is all this stuff belongs in addendums, and then this almost reads like an academic resume, but these are all very good things that this person's done. This is a good attorney. I'm sure it does well financially, and it has a great experience. The only thing I would recommend is a lot of this reads is very academic, and so these things do belong. You can certainly put those in the resume. But what I would recommend is this particular resume, you have to talk more about your experience at the very beginning. And that's going to, if this is all you've done, because I don't see your other experience. I just see all these things you've done, which are very good, by the way. These are all important things, but there's different paths too. So if you're doing, if you want to be a trial attorney, a family law attorney, or whatever it is, I'm assuming you don't want to get a job with someone, and this is just looking for comments on their resume. But what I would recommend would be doing breaking down your published works by subject matter, and then breaking down your seminars and teaching by subject matter, because there's a lot of different stuff going on here. And because there's so much stuff going on, it may be difficult for someone to understand exactly what you do. I can tell that you're very interested in what you do from it. And typically people that are this interested in stuff do very well, but I would try to break that down. And if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer. I don't know why there's no more experience there, but if you message Michael, I can happy to go back and answer them. Maybe this is it. Nope, it's not it. Oh, this is probably made up in data, but I'll fix this. Stacy, let's fix this. It's not the case. Okay, so this first and second tier trial attorney having criminal defense, former assistant attorney general. Wow. Okay. Okay. Again, all this stuff comes out. This stuff can all go into you can always put that sort of information into I've been doing this for hours. You can always put that sort of information, put it here. Oh, not here. That's a different resume. But you could put it here. But instead of saying sole proprietor, it's pretty clear that's what you do. I would just put down what type of cases you handle, type of matters you handle. And anybody that's doing a solo, just remember that if you are solo, or you can get jobs with employers, but you want to focus your resume for the type of employer you're trying to get a job with. Okay, so let's see this person when they graduate from 2010. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, Saipan, that looks pretty cool. I would like here, I think this legal intern would be under other experience, since that was during law school. And then the law schools and so forth. I wouldn't put 2011. I don't know when you graduated, but it almost draws attention that you didn't take the bar or pass the bar the same year you got admitted. I don't know that I would do that. And I would put that down there. Just put California. No one's, just drawing attention to a negative fact, which is not that you didn't get admitted the same year. Sometimes people do clerkships and don't get admitted for that reason, because all sorts of reasons that people don't get admitted right away, but just not drawing attention to it. And then I don't know that whatever this in court thing is going to help you, or the Colorado Defense Bar may. And again, labor law detracts from due. And yeah, and then this Office of Attorney General, I would build that up to the extent you can. And then I would take off this working holiday visa. I would just say that you've had your own law office during that time, and then you spent 2 years as a criminal prosecutor. Just saying you were traveling makes it look like you're not committed to the practice of law. And that just is not something that people get excited about. So people will assume you had kids. They may assume there were family things, or who knows. But so that's almost better than doing that. And then I would be careful of this. I'm assuming this Manure Yasu in of court is something to do with Saipan. So I would probably just remove that, to be careful. And then that's a good resume. You just need to make sure it's focused on what you want to do. I think you have a good chance also if you want to be a criminal defense attorney or work as something in the government, since you did that. One thing I would say to a lot of people on this call is you can see, I think Saipan is actually it is part of the US, but it's difficult for people a lot of times when they go overseas and into different markets to reintegrate back to the US. And it's just something to be careful about. Okay, so over 10 years. So look at this. So 10 is spelled out. So this is the same kind of mistake that a lot of people are making. And this stuff is important, because if you're making these sort of mistakes, then people get a little spooked that you don't know how to write, the rules of writing, which attorneys are supposed to know. That's just important. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. So key talents. Okay, so this is e-discovery attorney. So that's great. So this is perfectly fine. So e-discovery, but let's see what happens when we start reading. You have featured documents. Okay, that's fine. Audit group, special counsel, contract attorney, case manager, spine, small business report, or contracted borrowers, Rosemary Wire. Okay, these are the different places. Document review. Okay, so this is a good resume, but one of the things I would say is we did look at project manager. Okay, fine. We looked at resumes, these professional affiliations too, like you don't want to say you have a real estate license a lot of times, because that looks like you want to do something else. You just need to be very careful with that stuff. But this particular resume, we reviewed one earlier. I think you don't need to have, I understand you've been working at a lot of these places, but I would almost say that between your graduation date and the present, you've been doing work as a, I don't know, this oddly group, it's pretty small business administration, and this is document review. I almost, a lot of the stuff, a lot of these different projects like that you've done, I think that are not necessarily, you want to try to make things almost look like they're related. So you need to take all your experience, and you don't need all these key talents and so forth. You almost want to, it would almost be good if you could have these, what you've done at each job and have them be these key talents almost, or the featured excellence in and so forth. But what's nice about this resume is you're very focused on one thing. It makes sense. You have a skill, and for those of you who don't know it, the e-discovery and stuff can be a very good profession as a contract attorney or working full time in a law firm. But you want to try to come up with some sort of something in all of this that makes it look like it's very consistent. And I don't know how to do that, but I'd almost say from the date you graduated was 2011. It doesn't say what date you graduated from law school. So typically, and you don't need to put that there, but if you don't put that there, then people are going to assume you're very old, which is okay too, but you just have to be careful. And I don't know, private practice, I see. Okay. Okay. So you have done work for a long time. That's fine. But you need to, what I would recommend is probably doing I almost would, if you're applying for a contract and e-discovery jobs, you can almost just basically list your experience as a contract attorney in your employers. And you don't even need to list the dates. You can almost say, worked on assignments of the Small Business Administration and FDA and all these different things between these dates. That's almost what I would recommend doing between 2011 and 2013 on behalf of Robert Half and different, something like that. And then it just makes it a lot cleaner and easier. Attorneys are paid to take a lot of information and consolidate it. And so that's just something I would recommend you do there. And the stuff about graduate work in administrative law, that's okay. Yeah. But that shows you didn't finish it. Does it? May not. I don't know what it does, but I just would be careful about all that. Okay, this is a path. Next one. So I hope that helps. But what I would almost, a lot of this stuff too, I would almost feel like removing appearance attorney, negotiated commercial residential leases, private practice. I almost would just summarize your contract experience through those dates. And you can leave off your graduation date for law school, but just doing so, meaning people are going to assume that you're maybe much older than you really are, but it doesn't matter if you're old anyway for the kind of, it's just what it is. Attorneys practice in their 80s and 90s. They've seen people in their late 90s practicing and moving firms. You just need to, actually mid 80s. So I'm sorry, but I think these are your bullet points for basically almost something along the lines of, you would almost say something like e-discovery attorney. I just want to make sure I do this for you because I want you to get it right between, and then put dates, and then just say on behalf of various agencies or full-time time at, and then you could also say, I don't know, small business administration, all that sort of, et cetera, all the different companies and stuff. And then you would say reviewing documents for privilege, identified information, communicating in plain English, and then you would capitalize you reviewing, by the way, and then using typically another platform software experience. And this is just much better with due diligence, that sort of thing, if that makes sense. So then do it like this, if everyone can see how that would work. And then that should be much more helpful for you. So if you do it like that, then you're going to get a lot more interviews, probably doing it this way than I would do, like 2000, whatever the dates, the 2010 and so forth. And then you could take all this stuff off because it's not really that relevant. And most people are not going to really need all that. Something along those lines actually would probably work much better. And then this, that's it. And then you're going to get a lot more jobs that way because people can understand it. Now, if you apply for positions doing e-discovery that are taking advantage, if they're with lenders or they're working on similar stuff you've done before, you can put all that on an extra sheet, or you can actually talk about that in this area, but that's going to help you a lot. And that would be how I would handle that. Okay. Patent agent. Let's see. Some words. Sorry, I'm just looking at all this right now. Okay. So this is good. This is a good resume for patent agent. We do work with patent agents here. So let's go over this patent agent resume real quickly. The summary isn't, again, necessary. The fact you have a STEM background isn't necessary. You don't have to tell people that you went to different schools. They'll find that out from your resume. This is stuff you could certainly put in your cover letter. But I think you can see here how this person has worked at a bunch of employers, and this is how they handled it. And that's actually very smart. So instead of looking like they're a job hopper and so forth, they do this. Now, I don't think any of this is really necessary. As a patent agent, people have a pretty good understanding of what you do. So they're not going to expect, you can put all of this in a transaction sheet that goes somewhere else. People just won't like that because they're going to get, it's going to freak them out because there's just too much to look at and it's too much to go through. I understand that you think all this is important and a lot of people would, and there's no reason to not, but this goes in another page or something else. And then you need to figure out what's most important. And then you're left with something much smaller. And if you didn't complete the PhD program, I don't know, I guess you can leave that. Oh, I see. I missed electrical engineering. Okay. And then computer science, I don't know, or taught all labs of a section course. Okay. That's good. That's good. Computer science in Beijing. Okay. That's great. But again, I don't think you need all that information. I think you need to shorten it. And again, technical resumes, by the way, don't have to be the same, but as everything else, but in nuclear engineering technology, you need to shorten all this up because people, if you're not communicating these ideas succinctly, most people, this is all very important to you because it's your life. And for everyone whose resumes are being aggressively edited, I understand that, and then you didn't complete law school. So I don't know why you would want to list that. You certainly can, but that's how I would do it. And then, just this stuff is probably all you need. So it's much shorter. People understand what's going on. You may have taken time off because children or who knows, going back to your home country to work or something, but I would make it much shorter. Everyone knows what being a patent agent, engineering agent at these places means. So you don't need to go into a lot of details about that. Okay, let's see. Accomplished attorney with 18 years of experience, in-house experience, and a proven track record in a variety of, sentence fragment and variety of various. You can just see here, matter including. Okay, these are things, by the way, these profiles can go into, again, you want to put these in cover letters most of the time, if you use them at all. These relevant skills, again, not necessary. Okay, again, this is way too much. So here, I would just say, you have to put yourself in the shoes of an employer. So employers are going to have ideas about the fact that they may need a corporate attorney, they may need a litigator, you don't know what they need. But if you have here, it sounds like you have a lot of experience with public affairs, with policy, with litigation, with legal research and so forth, public policy. So, and representing the interest. So just summarize very quickly. That's it. Summarize experience and that's it. So just summarize experience with 1 or 2 lines and be serious. You want to, and when I say be mysterious, so you need to allow people to read into your resume and to see what you do. And then the relationship between these two positions is also important. This is a great resume, by the way, but I like that there's not really too much detail on there. And this is experience. Obviously, you don't need to say professional experience, it's experience. But you don't need to give too much detail. I think that what you have here is good, but you want to make sure, again, you summarize your experience. Now, I'm not sure that this is because you're doing a lot of antitrust work. Okay, so that's important. So I would relate that experience. The big thing that I want you to see with this is allowing people to highlight antitrust. The big thing is because someone may need someone with antitrust experience where you're trying to get a job, so that could be important. And especially, but the big thing is you need to be a little mysterious. And if you're a little mysterious, then people will see a lot more with you. Okay, in terms of Caribbean Advisory Services, it sounds like it's your own company. I mean, I don't know. But if it is, that's fine. That's a long time though. I guess it's 8 years. Again, it's probably I would think, by the way, this particular resume, you probably have a very good chance with all these Bitcoin people and stuff moving to Puerto Rico. So certainly is. Okay, this is great. Wow. This is a great resume for what you do. Okay. Then before that was paralegal. Okay. I don't know if that's necessary. Education Council, President Board, Georgetown University, Alabama, Northwestern. Okay, so this resume is great. I really have much to say. Is this the same resume? Very cool. Wow, it just keeps going. Okay, my bigger piece of advice is it's pretty obvious if someone spends just a little bit of time with your resume that you have a lot of experience related to this. All these things that you're doing with your bullet points and so forth, I don't think this is going to help you being a paralegal. So I would remove that. And I think that these regulatory agencies, you obviously are someone with connected and can get things done in Puerto Rico, which is very important. I think that there's not a lot of people like you out there with your experience, especially with businesses moving to Puerto Rico and so forth. A good business for you, by the way, would probably be setting people up for tax exemptions to move to Puerto Rico, businesses to move there and so forth, just to hint, because I know there's a big demand for that. And there's a 2020 Act or something, or 20, I don't know what it is, that society that could probably recommend to a lot of people to you, especially with your background. But this is a great resume. I don't think it needs a lot of work. I think that you need to shorten some of this stuff up and then probably have an attachment that goes into a lot of stuff. And it's actually much more effective if you just say, I know you could need a title here probably, but it's a great resume and it just needs to be shortened up. And then it would be very good. And I don't see any problems with it. Okay, let's see. Syracuse University. Wow. School in Madrid. Okay, but then you got a JD, which is great. Okay. So Syracuse University BA. So is this not an attorney? Oh, I see Juris Doctorate. Okay. Okay. I think this is the same resume. Okay. Yeah. So I would, these certifications and things, just get rid of them or put them at the end. You need to really shorten up this resume quite a bit. And that would be my biggest piece of advice. Okay. Here's the same resume we just did. I don't know how that got in there again. And let's see what else. Northwestern. Wow, that's a good resume. Okay. Okay. Juris Doctor. You don't need your fall of 2016 G. There's no reason to put that in. I don't know what the 3.3 means there, but if it's nothing outstanding, like meaning it's not going to rock the boat, meaning it's not top 10% either, going to Northwestern is good enough. So I don't think you need that. Keep the human rights stuff. That's great. You took some classes at the business school, but I'd be very careful about that. So I'm just looking at this here. Yeah, I don't think you want to list your course. I guess there's a lot of coursework. If you're a corporate attorney, that may mean something, but let's go back and see what's going on here. Okay, someone that went to overseas again, international legal advisor. Okay, normally I would recommend not this another person that's very interested in international legal studies, which is perfectly fine. But again, here's legal volunteer. This was 1919. Ooh, it's after graduation. Okay. Yeah, this is a very similar resume to the one we saw earlier today. And then you were a private equity associate for 4 months or 3 months. When did you graduate from law school? 2017. Okay, so this is everyone learns things or learns about their interest in the practice law, gets started at different speeds and so forth. The concern I have about a lot of these jobs, and I'll just say this one here for not liking it for 2 months, which is perfectly fine, but I don't really know how relevant this is. I would just have a section called legal experience. This looks actually like a lot of fun. I would love to do something like that. The innovation thing. This is very interesting, but again, yeah, I'm not sure if that's necessary. You have to be very careful with all this experience needs to come together in a way that makes sense to a legal employer. So let me show you what would make sense. And I'm not trying to, when you put something like international human rights, that's signaling that's something you're interested in. So this is, different from law firms. When you say you want to be all this business stuff, it's different from law firms. When you say you want to do this stuff, this is different from law firms. This is someone that wants to be in business. And then these are the kind of people that go and work like you did at a private equity company. When you say you want to be a, volunteer attorney doing divorces, there's all this different stuff going on and now you're working internationally in all these different countries. There's no consistency in terms of what, you want to do. And then your innovation, FINRA, and then JP Morgan is a summer associate. That's, is that even a legal group? Oh, it's a legal group. Okay. And the Mitchell Group. So it seems like this is someone that's more interested in, something else. And so the resume has to track and has to make sense to someone and show consistency of interest. And so honestly, like a resume that just did this, I'm not trying to be harsh here. French minor, French, international, all these different languages, which is totally cool. But It has to, there's too much going on. So it has to have some sort of focus. So what's nice is you've been doing this position for 2 years almost, or will be 2 years. And it seems like you like that position, but you're going to have to, this resume is going to have to go back and it is going to have some sort of consistency. So you're almost better off, legal volunteer. I guess it's okay. But then why did you do that? Like, why did you want to do divorce? And then now you want to do international legal advice. And then, so these are just, it's not, it's the process. What's fun about being young and stuff is that you can find your interest, and everybody winds up where they should be. It can take, for some people can take longer than others. But all these different types of things you've done, you're going to need to, after exploring them, you need to go through some sort of thought process and think about what are you going to do as a full-time job and what is it that you really want to do? Because there's just too much going on and no one can get to the bottom of this at the moment because you don't, it's like you have all these different interests and you're obviously extremely intelligent if you went to Northwestern and did as well as you did at University of Utah and have done all these things. But and this is a problem for a lot of people that they don't know what they want or what they want to be. And it's one of the hardest struggles that attorneys, people in every profession and walk of life many times go through is not knowing what you want to be and or what you want to do. And so you have to figure that out. And you tried private equity, you didn't like the first place you're at, maybe you would have liked the second, who knows? But all these different things are patent, trademark, corporate law, private equity, international legal advice, divorce law at the Brooklyn Bar Association. All these things are not necessarily related. So almost if it was me, just to make this a better resume, I'd almost do something like this. I hate to do it to you, but I'd almost take all this out and and don't allow people to, and all these languages and stuff are okay, but then it also looks like you're just interested in all these other stuff. Now, if that's what you want, that's okay. And then but you could also put additional experience. And you can say law school since following graduation from law school, that experience, and maybe a few other, something very simple, because if people see it this way, it's almost much easier for them to digest all this information. I would almost say here, just let people ask you what you majored in, but making things very simple. I'm now prepared. I'm now interested. All these things. The problem with attorneys is that they're very one-dimensional many times, and so you almost have to pure one-dimensional in order to get positions. And I don't know if this title is legal advisor or what it is, but I would just say law firm trading, and you're almost better off saying Washington D.C. and then instead of legal advisor, saying attorney. The idea is what's someone doing as a international legal advisor that's never really gotten experience in a law firm? What are they advising on? Who's taught them how to? I don't know, but this sort of thing is much more. The idea is you're taking away your ego and you're basically saying, this is what I do. And work on blah, blah, blah. And instead of trying to be many things that you're not, it's going to be hard getting a job in New York City because all these things the law firms can afford to be very discriminating against who they hire. So you almost have to dumb it down, even though that's not what you want to do. I know, because I wouldn't if I was you, but that's what's going on. So I hate to do that, but this is really would result in a much more employable resume. I'm seeking a position in a corporation as blah, blah, blah. You just have to lead with your strengths. If you list all your other positions, you're just going to look like you're all over the map. And no one marries someone that's all over the map. They marry someone that it's like trying to go out on a date with someone and saying, I like men, I like women, I like short ones, I like tall ones, it's not going to work. It's too confusing for the person that's trying to get you as a mate. So you can't do that. You have to be one thing or another. And it's a hard lesson for people to learn, but the problem is that you often see this with people that come out of the best law schools and have the best education or the smartest, and you have to do it that way. Okay, compliance and risk management was assessed of leadership strengths. God, what is all this? Oh, God's sake. Sorry, I'm just, okay, fixing this. So again, all these sorts of keywords, someone that's going to hire you is not going to hire you because of keywords on your resume. They will hire you because you're the best fit for the job. And this is a good resume. This person has a lot of, I'm just looking at all that stuff. Okay, so all this stuff needs to be regulatory compliance manager. That's fine. but you need to just summarize all this much more quickly. And that's fine. I don't know what this stuff is, but it looks good. But you need to shorten the resume and basically make it that way. This the stuff about being a adjunct professor, law, regulatory environment, if it's related to this job, that's fine. If it's not, no, no one cares about that. I'm sorry, it's just not. You have to be careful. Waddle and Reed, Waddle and Reed should be one of my tenants in the building I had. Let's see here. Waddle and Reed. Which did you graduate from law school? So I'm just looking at this. I think you probably graduated, 2010. Okay, so that's fine. So just put financial advisor. I wouldn't put all these companies. I would just put, I don't know why because here it just looks like you're jumping between employers. So I would just put financial advisor. And then I would just say, that's it. And then you got to score your financial advisor. That's fine. Obviously you're admitted to the bar, Juris Doctorate, Bachelor of Arts. Great. No, international advanced coursework at international business school. No, there's no reason for that. I guess you could put that. I don't think so. It's just, that's it. Yeah. So this is great. I think that you need to have, let's say you're a trusted advisor. Obviously you're an advisor. Just put a little, 1 or 2 lines, this type of experience. And then when you apply to positions, just make sure that it's focused on various things. And this gives people what I'm trying to do with everyone here, just so you understand, and the kind of the lesson, and it's not that big of a lesson, but it's a big lesson, is people will read into you more if you say less, and they'll try to read in the positives. If you say more, people will pick out negatives and read negatives. So with this particular resume, there's all these negatives, and all this person has to do is say, I did a lot of other jobs and doing this and other types of financial work and legal work. Or I'm seeking a position in a law firm. This position knows what they want to do, or I'm seeking a position in a company as an in-house counsel, whatever this person wants to do, instead of all this other crap that people can't figure out. And that's the biggest problem with resumes that don't get jobs, is there's just too much going on. And so you need to be very careful with that. And here too, same thing, like being a business law professor is not necessarily a good thing, or whatever this person did, because it shows a lack of commitment to practicing law. And I don't know what happened. Oh, this person got an MBA. Okay. Then they came out and then became, okay, that makes sense. So this is a great resume just for this. That's awesome. That's all you need. Let people read into you. Let people read into you. I don't know what this is. Is this attorney resume? Okay. It is 1978. Research scientist on alcohol. It's pretty interesting. 13 rehab hospitals. So relatives use doctor. Tier medical coordinator. I see 1981. So these dates are all backed up. Okay, what is this person doing? Dr. Soap. I don't even know if this is a real resume. Okay, so this is all this person. This is a mediation training. Okay, so this is basically like a profile from a website. It looks like just fine. Then and this 1978. Okay, person raising scholarship, state counseling. Okay, so this education goes at the end. No, you don't need it. Volunteer medical work. Lawyers concerned for lawyers. There's nothing wrong with, obviously, with any type of substance abuse problem, but this, well, and obviously that's what this is about. So let's see, it's alcoholism. All right, let me just get to this. So Dr. Lloyd Sokolom, assuming it's made up, that's fine. Founding director. Okay, so anytime you have things related to founding director, 2000. Okay, I would do the same thing here. So you've had your own practice for 20 years. That's all people care about. So here, I would say other experience. Then let's get your freaking education here. Other experience between, following law school. I worked as a, town council, with assisted private practice. Sometimes I have my own firm. That's it. That's all you need. And then all this other stuff about outpatient clinics. Now, I understand there's nothing wrong with being proud of running these outpatient clinics and these rehabs and so forth, but that's really the best way to handle all this. This is a much better resume like this. Substance abuse, that stuff can make employers uncomfortable. So there's no reason to put it on there. It's part of who you are, but this looks more like, no, executive recovery coaching. Okay. So executive coaching is interesting too, but I would just, you just want to basically talk about what is it you do most of. And now this is if you want to get a job. or because you have all sorts of options. You could work in a hospital, there's all sorts of things someone with this sort of resume can do. So there's a lot of really good things about it. And I have no problems with this resume, but I do think if you want to get a job in a law firm, if you want to get another job working for someone, your best bet is going to be to tighten all that stuff. And mediation is not something that necessarily pays bills. Now, I just would say represent individuals, person, property, and personal. Again, no one's and all these suggestions, by the way, are so you can get a job. They're not because I have great opinions one way or another about what you do. I think it's very admirable what you're interested in, what you're doing, but this is going to give people a lot more insight. So, for example, if you applied to work for me and I had an opening in where I work and for an attorney to do litigation or to represent me personally, this resume would be perfectly fine. I would interview you. Whereas with the other stuff, I would be worried you'd be more interested in addiction and all that stuff and leadership and a former CEO and things. Now, if you want to be a CEO of a hospital or you want to do something like that, then it's probably a good idea to change your resume around. But other than that, that's what I would do if I wanted to get a job. And that makes it much better. You just shorten things like that. Hey, thanks everyone for being on this call. I know it took a long time. I had to jump off for another call at 2:30 and I've been doing this since 10 a.m. So it's 4 hours, which I'm happy to do. I will make sure that all the questions are copied and I will do videos for those questions for you guys next week if you guys are on the call. And I know if you do want to see these resumes that have been edited, I can email them to people if they just whatever gives them, tell Michael in the chat about the resumes. But these are all great resumes. What I'm realizing when I look at all these too is that each of these people, every single one of these resumes is employable in a law firm. It's just you have to package yourself and you can't say too much about yourself. This is you just all these things that people do a lot of times detract from the real message of what their strengths are. It's really not everything you've done. It's more what you are. But I enjoyed this and thank you everyone for submitting your resumes. Next week, we'll work on cover letters and that should be fun. And I'll do a short presentation about cover letters. And then Micah will put information in the chat also about where you can send your sample cover letters. And thank you everyone for being on the call today. I certainly appreciate it. And we do have a lot of chat questions, it looks like. I personally do have to go. I normally wouldn't go right now. I normally have another half hour or so, but I will answer all your questions that people had in the chat by next week. And so if you can wait till then, I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure I got through everyone's resume today. And if I didn't get through your resume, I think I did. I reviewed everyone I have, I think. Then the only other option I would say is please email your resume to Michael, or maybe I didn't get to it because I didn't open it. I'm not sure. And then I'll try to review it again in another resume meeting, if not next week, then the following week. Thanks again for putting your resumes and I hope this helped everyone. So thank you.